Ratchet got a freestyle I just dropped on YouTube.
Let's get this party going.
You got another day to be great. You woke up, so that means that you have another day to be great.
All right, y'all. This is episode number 372 of the Homeroom Smooth Podcast, Black on Black. Okay, we don't support black on black crime or violence, but just talking about crime visually is another thing. But that's another conversation for another day. I have with me these amazing panelists. All right, so I have Paradise going from my right, no, my left, whatever. Anyway, on your screen it's right to left. Paradise Paris, King on Purpose. The Ratchet Christian, Deji, Manuel, and it's just Celine. All right. Now I'm gonna let all my panelists introduce themselves in the same order that I introduced them, and then we'll go from there.
Hi y'all, I'm Paradise Paris, also known as Paris the Icon, your controversial content creator regarding all things relationship and current social media dynamics. And of course, you can find me on literally every platform at Paradise Paris _ Paradise Paris _ Paradise Paris 1.
All right.
How y'all doing? My name is Kenneth Owens. I'm a professional photographer, service member, videographer, and a recent live streamer on TikTok, and I'm literally King on Purpose on every platform now. So you can find me at those.
Hi everyone, my name is Asmau Iwama-Oa. I am a comedian, and I also go by the Ratchet Christian on everywhere, on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Lemonade, you name it. If the platform exists, I am there, and you can find me there for all things politics, all things comedy, and yeah, thanks for having me, Smooth.
Oh yeah, of course.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Deji Manuel. I'm usually behind the camera. Today, I'm in front of the camera talking to y'all about a number of topics that we're talking about today. I am a director cinematographer here in Los Angeles. But you can follow me on Instagram at I Might Be Joking. No, I am not joking. That's actually the name, at I Might Be Joking. To take a look into my life.
Hey guys, it's just Celine. It's just Celine. I don't really have anything else that goes along with that. I post whatever the hell I want to post, whether it be something funny, my lifestyle. Recently, I just got into braiding Divine Hands, spelled just like my name, but with a D at the front of it. So if you're in the Dallas area, let me stitch you up. Aside from that, yeah, it's just me. That's how I come.
So also, ladies and gentlemen, she does poetry, all right, and she has her own fashion.
Don't be busting me out. What if I ain't want to
She sings as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like, dude, you promote yourself. Like, don't half do it. This is all you.
It's just Celine. They're gonna go to the page. They're gonna find it out. You know what I'm saying?
Whatever.
It's like a box of chocolates.
Yeah, you never know what you're gonna get.
Oh my God. All right, so our first topic is there, because I've seen this come up and I wanted to ask y'all, is there a valid reason to not talk about slavery anymore? To just not talk about it. It shouldn't even be brought up.
We going in order, or?
I mean, whoever wants to take a stab at it first, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ratchet Christian.
So as an African woman, I'm very mindful on topics that are, pertaining to the Black community. I know, although I'm talking first, I'm very mindful that we don't get first say versus, people who were born in America, have had the full Black American experience, but spent most of my life here and was raised by a Black woman. So I have a little bit of a perspective on it. I feel like we should continue to talk about slavery, but we should tell it in its full context. African American history does not start and end with slavery. I feel like if they told the full story, then they could continue to tell the story about what African Americans were doing but what they were doing before they were brought to the Americas. I want to talk about the the libraries that they met in Africa, the kings and queens that they met in Africa, the advanced civilizations that they met in Africa. They didn't go to Africa and take slaves. They went there and they took people, that had a civilization already before they brought them here. So I feel like if they told the full context and told the truth of the matter, especially what happened after slavery and how the African American community continually tried to rebuild and were continually, even up to this day, to be hindered by our government in various ways, then we can talk about it, but I feel like it needs to be a full and honest conversation from before up until now.
Okay.
I would like to go next. My answer is no. It shouldn't be an eradicated conversation because my great grandfather was a slave. That says a lot. I'm 28 years old. You know what I'm saying?
I
So
said, damn,
that's
you must be a
very,
baby.
very close. It's very close to home. My grandfather would have been almost 90 this year. May he rest in peace. But it's simple. I have some footnotes, but you cannot heal what you refuse to name. That's first and foremost. We cannot, to me, move forward without. That's like saying somebody had to know that the stove was hot in order to know not to touch it. You can't move forward not saying that the stove isn't hot. You can't put it to where everybody touches the stove. Some people need to, you get what I'm saying, know that it's hot. Unless at that point you're going to burn everybody. If you don't pass that information on, you don't learn how to advance. You don't learn how to do better. You don't learn how to be better. At some point in our history, we were, we did have Black communities that were thriving and, like doing their thing after slavery. But unfortunately, we had to go through our trials and tribulations, and to this day we still are. Whether it be the liquor store on the corner that has the cash and check place, which takes us away from wanting to create a bank account, or which I actually just seen as I went and got gas before I had came home, or just the simple fact of our education system like failing us in certain areas where our young Black brothers and sisters are not being taught how they should be, where now they're even literally trying to take things out of the book right now, so that way we don't know our history. It's very important that we know like where we come from, to know where we can go, because is basically it's important, and I do not agree with eradicating knowing what our history is.
I guess I'll end this off as being a woman. Black American here for sure. And my story gets told in a multitude of ways. My mom actually grew up on a plantation. The Red Leaf Plantation. I have grown up and I've seen plantation houses. They still pick cotton where I'm from. There's still cotton gin where I'm from. And that's very much so how close in proximity to slavery that I am. So close that there is still a white and black side. So close that the KKK is still active and participating, and they impede in everything from the politics in my local city all the way down to the school district, including the actual, church, every business, everything. Um, the idea that we should stop a conversation because it makes other people feel uncomfortable is like asking a child to not cry, they get beat. Mm-hmm. I don't have to, stop saying what I'm saying at the expense of your emotions if it makes me feel a ways, and so I don't necessarily feel a ways about slavery itself because I wasn't able to feel the impact, but I can acknowledge how inhumane it was. I can also acknowledge how much it affects me and even my unborn children right now to this day. Because again, my mother grew up on a plantation. My great grandmother came here and she was dropped off on a boat. And then she had a child who was my great grandmother, right? And my mom's grandma. And we knew her. Well, they knew her, and we had pictures of her. She grew up on a plantation, and she got to see slavery to its end. So, my grandmother being the first non-born slave, in my family, that says a lot. I'm not far removed from it at all. My roots penetrate very deep when it comes to the red clay of the South. And so I don't think that stopping a conversation actually helps. And I'll actually push back on the ratchet Christian. I don't give a fuck what they were doing in Africa. Because the reality of it is we skip a lot of conversation when we talk about what was happening here in regards to the mentality of some black slaves who cared to, break for freedom. And we skip a lot of what they look like as far as the education of them. We talk about the book breaking, we talk about the violence, we talk about even the biblical rituals. We don't talk about the we don't talk about the dynamics of some of the slave women who were, competent, and they were very so complicit in wanting to stay slaves. We don't talk about the slave men who wanted to stay slaves, and we don't talk about the actual division that came along with slavery in itself that impeded into Black Americans right now. Because everybody's always talks about how Black Americans never get along. They always talk about how we can never come together, but they don't talk about the division in slavery, but they do bring up Willie Lynch. And there were a lot of things that came in that we don't actually discuss, even down to the educational format that Celine mentioned, or even the economic factors that Celine mentioned, what they look like after slavery. Some of them still building dynamics and having close proximity to their slave owners. So it's a lot more to it than just, hey, it was violence. They talk about the psychological trauma of Black Americans literally being embedded into us, into Black women's wombs, well before we even have children. That stems from us being enslaved. Or even how today Black American men are the most welcoming. They're the most understanding. They are the most inviting men of all their women, even though they get berated as such as they are not. They get berated and told that they actually don't support their women, when actually statistics shows completely otherwise, even down to voting. They vote more like their women than other men. They do everything in alignment with supporting Black women more than other men. But because of slavery and the detrimental effects around those conversations, people are never, ever going to receive the truth if we push back and say, hey, we can quit talking about it.
Which part of what I said did you disagree with?
I don't care what they had.
It sounds like we agree everything that you said.
Yeah, I think there was a misunderstanding of how. So I think she was speaking more so as
like, I don't have to. I'm not saying to dismiss your point. I'm saying I don't have to start a conversation about anything they were doing in Africa.
So you mean it from the point you got to shift into now?
Right. Like I don't like the conversation, because what that does for me doesn't negate the beauty of what could have happened in Africa, or the people that are still in Africa. Like we pretty much know what the outcomes could have been. We do. If they had stayed in Africa, they still progressed. Africa still built their tribes. They still have their rituals. They still have their traditions. So I don't need to start the conversation there, because we talk about slavery in a dynamic here where people still don't have so many unraveled psychological impacts that directly affect me today.
So I think she was more so going along the line that like Black people weren't just slaves, right? You had doctors, poets, artists, and things of that nature who, like, you had they published a book about one of the slaves who came over. He was a Muslim scholar who, but he was also a doctor, and he was still writing. He was writing books, and while the whole time, like, nobody knew he was doing these things while he was a slave, and they were passing down some of the traditions that we take on now. Is just, oh, this is what we call them different, like, Black remedies, or slave remedies that we created online, some of those things like that. So I don't think she was saying like that. These, I don't think she was saying like these are the things that could have been done in Africa. I think she was saying like we weren't just slaves. Like there were things and individuals who came over who had these different.
Thank you, because it definitely was that. And
I understand.
Africa, let me finish. Africa is part of the story. Not everybody that was brought here was already here as a Moor. So to say we don't need to include that, that's not having the full conversation. There were people, a majority of Black Americans here do have African ancestry. prior to slavery. So to not include that in the conversation is to not have a full conversation. And yes, we can also talk about the Indians, and yes, we can also talk about the Moors, but to exclude the African portion of the story is to not tell the full story.
No, I'm not trying to say excluded. What I'm saying is I personally don't need it to start there, because I don't think what I'm saying is I don't think it takes away from the fact of the progression of African, right? So yes, I can acknowledge that, hey, even looking at today, Africans, like, you can literally see where first medicines were created, where first brain surgeons were created. Like, we know what the outcome would have been, whether or not we say, hey, these black people who came from and were a part of chattel slavery or the Atlantic slave trade, had they stayed in Africa, they probably would have been far more advanced of people in general, right? That wasn't my point. My point is saying I don't need to start the story there as a Black American, because I don't think that Black Americans in general, who are affected to a degree by slavery, understand the psychological effects so much, down to the impact of why we simply don't get along. And it's in Africa, and highlighting the key elements of the intellect, or highlighting the key elements of advancement, would not tell that story.
And I think what I'm going to add on to that is, like, we can all agree to disagree when it comes down to your point, Paris, because at the end of the day, erasing that history is just like the same as erasing the history of that fact that we were slaves at all. My thing is, when I tell my son that he can't, we have African descent in our family. My thing is, when I tell my son that he came from kings and queens versus he just came from slavery, I have to start at the beginning. I can't just start at slavery. I have to go back to that far of history in order to let him know where he actually came from versus, oh, you just came from slavery. So I'm sorry, I have to agree to disagree that it does not start at slavery over here, just because that's where our lineage had ended up being. When it comes down to the history aspect of it, like we're saying, we can't eradicate the history. And what it comes down to is the educational purposes of knowing where we came from, knowing who we actually are, what is instilled in our blood, what's instilled in our minds, what has been robbed from us. So at the end of the day, when it comes down to the African history of it, if you have that in your bloodline, it is very important to know if you come from these tribes. It is very important to know that you come from a certain standpoint in Africa, wherever it may be, for the simple fact that that is a part of history as well. You can choose to start at slavery, but that also eradicates the history prior to. So therefore, to me, that's still telling half the story.
So
I don't want half of the story to be told to my generations to move forward, starting with my child. I don't want to.
I don't think you guys actually disagreeing. Actually, I don't think you guys actually disagree.
No,
I think things are getting lost in conversation.
I'm agreeing to disagree with Paris.
No, I mean as the whole panel. I mean the whole panel.
Yeah. So
for what she's saying, like, to me, there's a space where, well, ratchet Christian. I'm pointing whichever. North, east, west. Okay, whatever what ratchet Christian was saying, I was thinking that she was saying that.
Perceiving it as, hey, let's cut out Africa altogether. That's not what I'm saying, right? Because
you want to start.
Here's the truth, right? Like, here's the truth. There were some people who were already slaves that got on the boat that they were sold by Black people. That's the truth, right? And then there were some people that, they were not enslaved at all. They were, doing whatever they were doing as far as being regular commoners, right? And they also were forced into slavery, right? There is slavery, or was slavery, slavery didn't die, and slavery wasn't specific to Black Americans, right? That we don't talk about, the enslavement of Hispanics and things like that, but that's the reason why we have Afro-Caribbeans, Afro-Latinos, and, there are more sectors of slavery. It just impacted Black Americans the longest. We had the longest history of it, right? So you can never take away from that. And we don't need to start with the Moors or the Native Americans or anything like that, because we're not talking about them, right? Me acknowledging other people's slavery is still doing a disservice to my lineage, because I'm not talking about them. I know that they existed, But for the most part, I'm not trying to dismiss the entire lineage, right? But even telling the positive aspects, right? There were negative aspects today that I think are a little bit more impactful than trying to shine the light on how well life could have been. Because the reality of it is we never got to what could have been.
So I'm gonna say this, right? I think if you isolate, if you call ISO on just slavery in America, it takes away from how atrocious it was in the actual, like, what damage it did. Because if you have to have that aspect of what was in Africa, how these people got there, like the betrayals, the lies, the amplification of it with
The
what was his
setup,
name that did
the
what'd you
setup.
just say? Yeah, the setup, like everything wasn't like truthful. And I think if you just look at American slavery, you don't actually grasp the full ramifications of how bad it was, and how it was just a totally different form of slavery. Because what they had in Africa was like more of a punishment, and you had a time limit, and then you would get out of it, and you'd be back to normal, and everybody would treat you normal. Like it was a crime punishment. It wasn't a actual, like, hey, you're enslaved.
Restoration.
Your child, as soon as they're born, they're guilty of what you're guilty of. Like I think it takes
Like
away from
prison.
how bad
You
it
do your
was.
time and then you go back.
I
Yeah.
got an example of that. Growing up, did you guys know my? I spent some time. Not even growing up. This was literally when I was 13. I was in Nigeria for boarding school for about 3 years. My parents sent me back for about 3 years, and I lived with my grandparents. I know, I'm not gonna name brother. My parents, my grandparents. I stayed with them for a little bit, and this was back in 2005, and they owned a slave. Now they don't call them slaves, but that's what he was, and it was, to go back to Smooth's point. It wasn't the type of slavery that they teach about you here in the United States. He was there. He was respected. He was treated well. And then 3, 4 years down the line, he decided, I want to go to school. I want to go to university. I want to move on with my life. They allowed him to go do so. My own mother, as I was in school, she had bought a quote unquote slave from another village. That person came, she wasn't paid, she had no education. Every time I spoke to her, I just realized how much of a education gap there was between me and her. She grew up in an African village that didn't know anything. All she knew was I had to just work hard and listen to whoever owned me at the time. She did what she did, and 4 or 5 years later, she went about her business. Nobody was beating her. Nobody was sending dogs to bring her back. Nobody was having her breed in order to create more slaves. To Smooth's point, even in modern times, even still to today, they have those slaves that, and I don't like calling them slaves because I'm so used to the American definition of slaves that would come in, indentured servitude, that would come in, do what it is they do, and then over time they would decide for themselves whether or not they would move on to greener pastures. So I think there needs to be that understanding. I know for you, Paris, there is that understanding where you want to make sure that you start from American slavery, and I know you're not discounting history as a whole. In fact, I think you're pretty knowledgeable with some of the stuff that you've said. But I also believe, in order to understand just how bad American slavery is or was, we need to be able to compare it to the history as a whole. I've experienced with my own eyes how it is in other nations, how it is in other countries. I've lived it. It's something that I personally believe needs to be Black Americans need to know. because it lets you know that this is not where my ancestors were supposed to go through. This was not the original plan. This is, and when they talk about how, people say, Africa sold other Africans, it's like, this is not what they envisioned.
Mm-hmm.
This is
and
not
I
what
also
they.
want to say that. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. I mean, just to wrap up my thoughts here, and I'll let you talk. Is that knowledge of free American slavery? It helps us to better understand just how skewed it got, and that's why we kind of need that whole African knowledge as a whole.
So that my point of view is definitely an individual perspective, and that's not to say that knowledge is not important, right? So
right.
That's why I spoke from the sentiment of, for me, I don't need to, like, not to say that I don't know it, but when I think about the idea of, to your point, Deji, right? I come from a state where a black man had 400 slaves.
Mm-hmm.
He did, and that's why I said, like, a lot of this is a little bit different. I come from the oldest slave church in my state. It was burned, and I still walk when I go home on plantation of slave graveyard and things like that, right? And so, that's the real thing. The bell tower is burned and it's real, like iron. It's burned partially still to this day. And it was there, and it's as old as 1886, something to that nature. So that's the second church. It's still standing. The original brick, everything. So it's not to take away or to minimize that, right? But as an individual, for me, I see so many different impacts, like right now amongst Black Americans. I think that me personally, I think that Black Americans understand what hope could be in the sense of success. And that I don't think that takes away from Africans. I don't think that takes away from Black Americans when you talk about, like, hey, you could be great, right? Like, fun fact, Juvenile, a rapper from poverty, literally in New Orleans, his daughter's a doctor. Like, he's literally broken generational bonds by getting his daughter to just be advanced in that sector. But nevertheless, I don't think it minimizes it or it takes it away. The same way it doesn't minimize or take away from acknowledging that other ethnicities and other cultures were enslaved. Haitians were the first to get free. But we walk along these people, we parallel with these people, but I can acknowledge that I have a different plight every day. It's definitely a different plight.
If I could, piggyback off of, I'm sorry to cut you off, King on Purpose, just because I wanted to comment on what Paris had said. As I listened to everybody's thoughts and opinions on what it is that we were sharing, it's like, I feel like, Paris, where you and I are having maybe a misunderstanding or disconnect, because, at the crux of it, we agree on a majority of these things. I think our disagreement comes from, I think maybe you heard me communicating that, we should refer to Africa so that Black Americans could see what they could have been. I want to clarify that that's not what I mean. That you should never look back on Africa and Africans to think about what Black Americans could have been. I say we have to include Africa as part of the pictures to tell Black Americans what you already are. You're not having to be anything that you already aren't. You come from a great people. You are a great people. You are capable. They didn't meet you as slaves. They met you as educated, dignified people. And that's what you already are. Not to look back and say what you could have been. It's not what you could have been. It's what you are and continue to be. You come from a great people. You are a great people, and you will continue to be a great people. And so I feel like maybe you misunderstood that, or I didn't communicate it properly. And I apologize for that. We're not looking back to reminisce. We're looking back to solidify that you come from a great people, and that's why you are great and will continue to be great.
I
and
love that.
In this country.
It's perception.
That. Right.
That was very beautifully put. Perception, for sure. Because we don't ever need to erase history. Everything happened. Right? And so that's the point of saying, let's not talk about slavery. Everything happened.
I don't feel like coming up behind that. I feel weird.
What do you guys say to people who say, hey, well, let's not bring up slavery because we have to move forward, and they feel like slavery is talking about it is holding us back.
So one thing I say to people who say that, right? I don't think the conversation around slavery should be geared towards creating victimhood, right? But you need to understand what actually happened in the country, because if you don't, it's doomed to repeat itself. We see certain shit happening right now that's kind of aligning with things that happened back then. You look it up. Never mind. But y'all know.
Yeah.
But to that point, never around people who feel comfortable enough with me saying that to me, or that don't give up that vibe that people be like. There is nothing about my demeanor that goes, "Oh, she's the person I should tell. Hey, we should quit talking about slavery."
Right.
Hey, it's a lot of bold people in the military. I ain't gonna lie to you, boy. I didn't have to correct so many people.
Well, that's because you are in it.
Nobody brings stuff like that up to me because they know I go in like, and I won't do it right then. I'll go, okay.
But you also get people who have never been around people that correct them, and they feel bold enough to do it.
I'm giving you a dissertation, whether you know it or not, because I'm gonna figure out where you come from, like your history, and then I'm finna go in on points where it's gonna stick to you, and you're gonna be like, oh God, like because I'm gonna go in, like don't bring that up to me, like I'm very like against this just human cruelty in general. So like if you bring up anything that's hurting people, like I'm finna go in on you.
And I don't think we don't talk about slavery in depth as we should anyways. A lot of people don't actually realize
we really don't.
And things
we don't.
Like people during slavery, like whether they were eating us, turning us into purses, turning us into shoes, using our bones for actual gelatin, and like people don't feeding babies to alligators or cutting women's stomach open just to watch the fetus fall out, or
they were taking our teeth out their mouth and
people just for they were like there was a point where people would come up to, I don't know if you guys ever been to an outdoor theater, right? They have events like that, right? But people don't realize how horrific slavery actually was. But I also want to touch back on some of the stuff you was talking about when you was Deji. You were mentioning some things about slavery, but you said you didn't want to call it slavery. A lot of the systems weren't even called slavery. There's only one system that was more akin to slavery, and that was during like war. Right? You the captive would be captain, they would become a slave, a war slave, or war captive. But they had like corvair labor, where it was like state imposed labor, which majority of the citizens who didn't have power fell under that. And they had the patronage, where a lot of people attached themselves to different households for land, money, power, so on and so forth. And then you had punishment, where somebody had to pay off a debt. But those weren't called slavery. They were called like specifically.
Exactly. And there's different terms for it. I was saying that just for people who bring up the fact that, you know, why are you blaming me for slavery when you guys sold yourselves to each other? And I'm like, please.
Now that also happened. But
it wasn't under the same context. That's why I'm about the fact that it was a lie. Like they used the same term, but they knew they meant something completely worse.
Yeah.
And also like
for sure.
Smooth. So I think you brought this up earlier. What happened was they went to different tribes, and they would feed them different information. You give them certain equipment. I give you this, and they would create this such spread and discourse between those different tribes would make them fight each other and do war things. And then they would take some of those slaves who lost and became war captives, and they was like, "Hey, let's buy these slaves from y'all," right? And a lot of that was intentionally done, and that happened for years before there were even the first boat that went across. Y'all know the name of the first slave ship?
I used to know it. I forgot it.
Yeah, I don't remember offhand.
I don't remember offhand, but I used to know.
I want y'all to look it up. It's crazy. It's a religious term.
But I mean, overall, like It's so much that I can say, like right now today, that we have a lot of dialogue as Black Americans, right? And I want to be very clear. I never ever, even working as a Black woman in corporate America, there are just some conversations my disposition doesn't invite. I want to be very clear about that, right? Um, my dad actually got into a altercation with a white man, and I absolutely could have lost my dad to the system because of that altercation before his passing. My aunt is 69, and the reason why she ended up moving to Chicago was because they had a riot at my school. My uncle on my dad's side and my aunt were classmates on my mom's side. She busted a white girl's nose who was the daughter of the sheriff, and that night they went looking for her. So my great uncle, who was my mom's brother, my grandma's brother, they had a truck, him and his wife. They put on the bed of the truck and they drove her up to Chicago that night. She never came back. There is so many different layers to the degree of separation of racism, prejudice, and what the impacts of the brutality of slavery is, that as an American, you have so many layers to unpack psychologically, why you even have Black Americans who literally fantasize or fetishize about being with other races, or they triumph in a sense of saying, hey, they think of Black people as lesser than. So when the Ratchet Christian, she mentioned, you were already kings and queens, you were already doctors, you were already smart, you were already. I have to go and have that conversation with my children one day. You get what I'm saying? I have a nephew that I have to have that conversation with one day. And that's just not sex ed. That's not the basis of the birds and the bees. That's a little bit more mentally traumatic.
Okay. Well, God, what are what do y'all see as the? Does anybody have, first of all? Does anybody have anything else they want to add to this topic? The first topic. Anything else?
I think we all pretty much agree.
Yeah, I think we walked down pretty good, got to a point of agreement.
Fantastic. Great. Now, what are the number one problems hurting our community, and how do we fix it? So what do y'all think are some of the bigger issues present day? Because we talked about the past. Let's talk about the present. What's going on today?
Being chained to the Democratic vote and being unwilling to maybe try other options. I think that is one of the problems, having the Black vote taken for granted by the Democratic Party. And I'm at the point now where I don't really believe in the parties, you know what I mean? I feel like they're just two wings on the same bird. But due to the fact that people did die for the right to vote, I do exercise my right to vote, because if it wasn't important, then why did so many people have to lay down their lives? So I do vote, just out of respect for what our ancestors went through for that vote. But I think now, where the Democrat has pigeonholed our community in that, they make us a lot of promises and they don't have to deliver. And once we started waking up to it, they've pivoted to the Hispanic vote. To me, that's pretty upsetting. And I feel like as a community, we should be willing to look elsewhere, whether vote Republican, vote independent, just not be so like locked in that I'm Black, I have to vote for a Democrat because I'm Black.
I'm curious about this because people do bring that up sometimes, and I'm someone when it comes to politics where I always tell people I do lean more liberal, and I have a whole bunch of issues with the Democratic Party myself. When we see, people that are being introduced to us, that are being brought to us, and we want to honor the democratic process by voting, because so many people have died and suffered in order to give us that right to do it. Oftentimes I wonder to myself, is it we get these two options and more, but honestly the other options, let's be honest here, sometimes it's if you vote libertarian, that candidate is not going to win. That's That's just the honest truth.
That's true.
If we don't go and vote for Democratic candidates, and once again, there are so many issues that we need to resolve within that party. Our other option is the Republican side, and we know they've been on one for a while now, and I just don't feel like my values are aligned with that party. And I at least know with this other party, I have a chance of making a change with that party. I have a chance of rounding up those who have boots on the ground, who are doing things from the ground up to change that party. But this other party, they have a set of values, what they would like to refer to as American values. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by American values? Why do you think your values are the standard? Why do you think your white values or the way you view the world, the way you view those things is America? I see it all the time. This rhetoric of you have, every time I even see the word patriotic now, it triggers something in my brain because I know what they mean by patriotic.
Yeah. Versus the sense that I would use it in.
Exactly.
It's meant to be derogatory. It is.
And when you think about those things, when it comes to that particular party, and once again, hate the two-party system. I despise it. But it's the reality that we live in. Do I want to go to this other party that's constantly telling me that that I'm not a person, or this other party that's dysfunctional? But if we can get the right people in, if we can continue to make progress, if we can allow them not to play in our face, which, to your point, Patrick Christian, they do. I still see a little bit of hope for.
Okay, I want to pick off of what you're saying. I know other people are waiting to comment, so I'll make it quick. But it's like if we're able to recognize that both parties play in our face, the way that I've seen it is like overt racism versus covert racism, because racism does exist within the Democratic Party. How they campaign to us, the debauchery that they sell us every 4 years with the hot sauce in the bag. If you don't vote for me, you're not Black. They come around, they make us promises that they don't have to deliver. Their only promise is vote for us because we're not racist. But their racism is there. You know, their racism is just not as obvious versus the Conservative Party. You already know how they feel about you. You know what I mean? And that's not even all of them. You know, what used to be common sense 5-6 years ago is now conservative. And I was talking about this yesterday, like common sense does not belong to white people. You know, voting for things that support families, voting for things that push forward education within the Black community, self reliance within the Black community. Those aren't inherently racist things. But I feel like every 4 years, the Democrats put up this false flag. Hey, look, we're not the racist people. We're not going to give you anything. We're going to sing and dance. We're going to make you the promise. We'll bring out Meg Thee Stallion. There'll be a little twerking. We'll have a cookout. And then we don't hear from them again. And so for me, it's like I'm an independent. I'm a registered independent. Because I believe that my vote matters. I vote whichever way I feel like is going to be impactful. I voted for Kanye when he ran. I grew up listening to him. I believe in the things that he was saying. So I'm going to cast my vote because the way that they corner us is to say, well, you know, the lesser of two evils. No, there isn't a lesser of two evils. There's three parties, and all three of them get a chance to pursue me, to earn my vote, and then I'm going to cast it for who I believed in. This time, I casted it for Donald Trump because I was in LA quarantined for 4 years under Biden's administration. I felt the oppression of being unvaccinated, of wanting to make the choice for my body, being a Christian in Los Angeles. I felt the oppression here under the Biden administration. And it wasn't because of the color of my skin. It was because of my faith and because I wanted to think for myself. And so when it came around to voting for Trump, I wanted to vote for RFK, who was running as an independent. When he joined Trump, it made it easier to cast my vote that way. But I'll wrap this up by saying, because I believe that my vote counts, the Democratic Party does not automatically get it. They will earn it just like everybody else. I rest my case.
That's the
Forget that
one time.
vaccination.
When it comes to voting, that is the one time where I know when people say black people don't come together, they lie. You are a liar if you say black people don't know how to come together, because even blindly, there is not a social media outrage, banter, gender war, uh, round table discussion. I don't care what propaganda you push. When the numbers turn up, whether it's 1980 or 2020 or 2026, we are always 85% and more in alignment with one another wholeheartedly. And I think part of that is, and that's for every age, that's not specific to the elders, right? Um, I don't acknowledge any, side. I don't. I'm very conservative in my views for the most part. And then depending on what the situation is, I could be a little bit more liberal. That could be because of my upbringing as well. I come from a 2-parent household. It was very much so Christian. So some of the things that I think we have deviated from, I pride traditionalism like a Republican, but I also pride, individualism like a Democrat. So it just it goes to show that voting should look like, what does that reflect in your personal life? In the moment that we start trying to do it for everything community oriented, we lose the plot. That's not to say we should not be thinking about community, but that is more so to say that we are breaking down what is very important overall, and we're losing what needs to be done, because how I vote currently in a Republican county is not going to impact my mama. It's not. She live in another state, bro. Like, it's not. So, regardless, us trying to be on one accord, I don't think that that is the issue that Black people have. I think that we are taught, or we have been there's too much propaganda around us being weaponized in our loyalty to one another from both parties.
Very true.
That's my issue, right? You've seen people during this actual election disown family members and quit talking to them for how they chose to vote. That is those people's right. That is literally their right. The fact that they even got up and decided to. So the fact that you think that your life, which may have reflect, single individual versus their life, which reflects, single parent household with low income job and 2 kids, they don't require the same things. Their views are not the same. The way that they need things in life are not the same. Those people should be voting in their own best interest. And we lose the plot when we think everybody Black got the same interest. Like, my life, like I don't have much to say about what's happening in school districts except for don't cut the funding. So every time they put it on the ballot to say, should we reduce funding, I automatically say no. But everything, I'm not going to PTA meetings. I'm not a parent. You get what I'm saying? The other thing is we took too much of politics out of the church. I know y'all ain't gonna like that. But
I'm not there to listen to politics. I'm there to get a connection with Jesus.
Well, I know you are, but what I'm saying is,
not there for that.
Even though you're there to get a connection with the church, that is how they pitch. That is how Black people who didn't want to go read got to know. They came into the community. They're door to door, and it didn't matter if we were more leaning one way or another.
100% agree with you on Paris. 100% agree with you. I know there are people who feel that we should keep politics out of the church, but I'm like, and people who everyone will believe whatever it is that you believe in, and I always respect that. But there are people who go, well, I just don't do politics.
Mm-hmm.
Well, politics will do you. So,
yeah, for sure. For sure. Whether you go and vote or not. Right now, we in a war. You know why? Because politics did the people who said, I don't believe in voting.
Yeah. So the church, which is a leader in the Black community, like, whichever way you want to slice it, the church is a leader in the Black community.
It is.
And choosing to abstain from politics in that, and you don't have, the church doesn't have to go super deep into it. It doesn't have to be a political. They don't have to be a political pundit.
I
have a question.
Once you bring up
do
the
you
subject,
think?
you can't. That's sitting on the fence. Either you're in it or you're not. So that's the part that I don't like bringing the church into X, Y, and Z, because my thing is it's not just put your pinky toe in type of movement when it comes down to that. You're talking to a full group of people that are entrusting you to, you get what I'm saying, educate you about something specific. So therefore, you're communicating to people in a mass sense, which will lead. Sometimes there are a lot of sheeps in the world, unfortunately. So therefore, you're pushing at that point. You're pushing an agenda to me in the wrong space where I'm trying to get close to Jesus. You get what I'm saying, pushing who I should vote for or what I should do. You're bringing this mayor, you're bringing
So
this
what
person, you're bringing
what that
that
actually
person.
looks
Like,
like?
I'm sorry, I want to come here for my connection and my relationship with
No, no.
Jesus.
Here's
If
the
I
thing.
want to go to a town meeting,
Real
then
quick,
that's where
Steve.
I'm gonna be at.
Okay.
I want to make sure I clarify this. It's not. I don't believe it to be pushing one candidate over another. What I do believe in is going through policies.
Correct.
Is making sure people understand what helps the Black community and what doesn't. It's making sure people understand that what is in alignment with your God and your values, and treating people correctly, and making sure people get the resources that they need. Now, when I have an interesting relationship with the church, even though I am religious, because there's a lot of churches out here that preach all about wealth and individualism, and God will make you rich and all that. Cool. I'm not about that. My thing is, how do we help the people who go to the church as a whole? What can we look at to make sure that a mother is not outside stranded on the street with 3 kids? What can we make sure that these children have the necessary resources that they need so that they don't go hungry in school? These are all policies. And when the church understands what these policies entail, then we are able to know who to vote for, what to vote for, what policies to vote for, because everything goes back to the teachings of Christ, and even Christ himself was political. But we're not gonna go through all that.
Can I clarify real fast, because I want to make sure that Celine, I don't want to get you to agree with me. I just want you to understand my position, and because this is not a agreeable conversation, this is just throwing it out there. The reason why I said what I said was because, for one, I still go to church same way as you do, right? But what ends up happening is we leave a lot of these conversations up in the air to make it individualistic anyway. The same way you're like, hey, I'm an individual here and I'm coming to go get my praise and worship. There are people who saying I don't need to go to church to get my praise and worship. But the church is community oriented in itself, right? Policies, plan, procedures, and we're always having conversations about how the church handles and mitigates funds. The fact that the church don't feed the community anymore. They don't do back to school programs anymore. They don't do after school food for children. They don't assist low income or single mother households with their light bills anymore. They used to create funds for things like that, right? And so what they used to do was the people in the church would go and they would tell the people who was running the church, the committee organization members of the church, then they would leverage out whatever candidate that was more leaning towards them, and they would pitch to say, if you want our community to vote for you, regardless if everybody's sitting there, right, 25 people in the congregation, 5 people may not vote the same way, but for the most part, when you are sitting in church, everybody is aligned with the same end goal, regardless if it's religion or not. They are in the same community. Typically, they are putting money towards the same things. Typically, so it's not the fact that I want that to be imposed, but what I am saying is we are leaving a lot of people to say just go do the research, and that leaves the actual people who are running very lazy. They stop going door to door. They don't issue out pamphlets. They don't do the groundwork. And we have said, hey, I'm just here in church, but then we're also, kind of mad at what the church is not doing. And that's a part of leadership.
For educational purposes, That's completely fine. But I'm not trying to be in the sanctuary when I'm supposed to be getting a sermon and you bring a politician on the stage and say X, Y, and
Yeah,
Z. I've been a part of
Yeah.
that. I'm not I'm not there
I
for that. I'm not
I
here
agree with you
for
there.
a
We're not there.
So
mayor.
what
I'm
my
not here
hold on,
for the
hold
mayor
on.
to
Move,
show
you go
up
first, because
and
I'm like, I really want to
I'm not
jump
here
in.
for the mayor to show up. If I wanted to go to a town hall meeting, that's where I would go to. I came here to get a
So
sermon. I came here to to talk to Jesus. If it's for educational purposes, then we can talk about that on the side. But when it comes down to the masses of what, as far as like, I'm coming in on a Sunday morning and you're bringing a politician on stage and you get what I'm saying, telling me X, Y, and Z about this person. No, sorry, not for none of that.
I agree
so
with you.
the reason why I'm kind of for it, but I'm for it in a certain way, right? Like church used to be the forum in which the discussion was had. It was a
Yeah.
safe place for us to have the discussion and be very, very black about the discussion. We didn't have to negotiate with anybody. We didn't have
Yep.
to pull our hold our tongues and all that. We could just say what it is. And did everybody say something at these meetings? No, but the people who were out doing the research were getting the knowledge, because in your church you'll have like your doctors, you'll have like your lawyers, you'll have your people, that your educators, all those people. They can then have that discussion amongst themselves in front of you, and you can see how that policy plays out, and you're like, okay, like you can kind of formulate which ideas kind of more resonate with you, and you can figure out where you want to be. Without the church formulating that conversation, a lot of people have turned to whatever hole of the internet they end up falling into, which is then powered by an algorithm that's powered by whoever owns said algorithm. So it's not, they're not getting what they should get because it's not for us to begin with. So if you want something that's going to be for us, and we can start having policies and people for us actually do what we want them to do, we have to come together as a community and become more educated on the topics. And we need that forum for it. And
And
that's
I'm
where church should be the forum. Now, with them bringing politicians on stage during service,
they
I
typically don't do
I
that.
also, yeah, I
I've
do.
been to I can go
No, they did it
that
today at
church
Concord. I'm not gonna say that they.
that church, I'm not gonna name the church, but the church across from Church's Chicken off of John Barrow in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Yeah.
We can go as soon as that. Come on, like I'm not about to. It may not happen
Yeah,
at your church, your church, your church, your church, but my thing is, it's definitely happened in the house that I've been in, and I feel like it's just a handshake by a standard. Just because that person is walking in here doesn't mean that that person has the best interest of at heart of anybody up in this room when it comes down to it.
right,
And I
So
agree
my
with
I
thing
agree.
you.
is, at the end of
right.
the day, I'm not about to sit up here and my thing is, if we want to educate, if we want to do that, then let's set up something that's for that, if that makes sense.
Right,
Let's set up an
right.
educational sense
That's
for
what I'm.
that. Let's
Yeah,
But don't bring that across the altar. Don't bring that into the sermon. Don't bring that
On the
into
yeah,
the house
Sunday.
of the
yeah,
Lord when that's
Now,
not
yeah.
what we're supposed to be
wait,
talking
So
about in the first
we
wait,
place.
have
wait,
this
wait, Paris,
point.
Paris, real quick.
Okay,
Cause I gotta finish what I was saying. Like that's
okay.
what I was finna say. Like I'm not saying put them in the pulpit. I don't think that's the place for that. Like I
Me either.
don't. They're not the leader of your soul. They're not. You
Thank
know
you.
what I'm saying? I don't know
'Cause-
what their relationship with God is or supposed to be. Your pastor's relationship is supposed to be the person that's praying for you when you aren't even praying for yourself. That's who he's supposed to be.
Mhm.
Now, if he's doing that, that's fine, but it should be, hey, after service, we have so and so from the mayor's office. If you want to get with him, you can go into the overflow room. We're gonna have him in there with blank, 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 and here's that. And then also, oh, on the table outside, sister so and so has her petition to get blank blank on the ballot. If you want to go more, go talk to sister so and so out there in the foyer. Like I think it to be a community forum, I think it needs to be that, and I think the pastor just needs to facilitate. The church needs to just facilitate the conversation and provide the avenue for people to get that stuff. That's
That's
it.
So
fair.
what I
That's
was
fair.
gonna say to
That's
you,
fair.
Celine, is I also agree with you. I don't want that to be misconstrued, and I'm not saying that what you saw never happened because I've seen it too. Jasmine Crocker was at Concord today doing the very thing. That very thing. That wasn't my intent for that conversation. what I know to be happening, and let's just put it out there. That is a conversation for mega churches and people who like popularity. Let's just call it what it is. That's what that is. And that's a whole nother issue in the Black community itself. Getting everybody on board to go to the popular churches with the popular message that brings in the popular groups. And that's what is happening there. Typically, what I have seen is I've had my mayor come and sit in the sermon. She didn't get to speak. She just came and sat down and showed people she was in the community. You get what I'm saying? And so that is something that I look at as opposed to, somebody saying, oh, well, we got this person here tonight, let's platform them. Or we got this person here during service, let's platform them. Because I think politicians need to know they work for the people. You don't let politicians know they work for the people by giving them an over-projecting voice of the people. No, they need to sit amongst the people. So what used to happen is they wouldn't do it during service. Typically, you have politicians, they would drop in because they wanted to support other community, and they would speak with people after service. They would dedicate time, fellowship, literally fellowship. But what they would do is the same way you're talking about, I want to go to a community meet. They're not there. I'm going to be honest with you. Today, they're not there. They're only hitting meetings when they have to in the evening time. They not at every fucking meeting. But what they used to do is the church used to set up a time in the evening when everybody was available during the week, probably a Wednesday or Thursday, right? And they used to come in and sit down and voice their opinions, like a PTA meeting or after school meeting, or like that's how they used to do it. And I can only say that because I've been to Pine Bluff, I've been to Little Rock, church in Little Rock too. But that's what they used to do. That was the tradition of the Black church. And a lot of the conversations that we're having, the Black church was a neutrality ground, right? So even like when we were talking about like these different candidates and things like that, being a candidate don't look one way. You have some people who are both candidates running in the same primary that are literally the same, what do you call it? So it's like, you will have two people they both Republicans trying to beat the Republican ballot, or two people that both Democrats trying to beat the Democrat ballot, but you're trying to pick the best candidate who resonates with you. And that's not to say everybody who going also need to be going to church.
Paris, if I can interject really quickly on the topic, I just want to share my thoughts on it before I forget, because I do think that, there is a place and, coming and talking to the people at the church, not on a Sunday, on a separate time, if people want to come in on their free time and attend that meeting, let the church know about it. It's going to be on such a day at a different time outside of service. There is a room and a place for that. But the double-edged sword in bringing politics into the church has weakened the gospel. Bringing politics into the church and allowing the government to come in and offer the churches subsidies to not talk about certain things, subsidies to talk about certain things. That's why you don't hear preachers talking about abortion anymore. That's why you don't hear preachers talking about the LGBTQ community anymore. That's why you don't hear preachers. During COVID, I was hearing pastors talk about, reprimanding the Black community for not getting the vaccine because they were being subsidized by the government, or they didn't want to have their tax exemption status taken away because of politics. So in bringing in politics into the church, it has weakened the gospel, and also wanting the pastors to spoon feed the audience. Audience, basically, the congregation, what they should think politically, absolves the people within the church of their responsibility to do their due diligence outside of church, to be knowledgeable about who they want to vote for. It is not your pastor's responsibility to prop up anybody before you. If you're an adult and you're in that church, you should be well informed on your own. And not only that, too, having politics in the church works as long as the pastor is agreeing with you that Sunday. The pastor is having to talk to hundreds of people within the audience, not offend this person, make sure this person's views are being represented, that person's views are being represented. We're not called to preach the world's gospel. We're called to preach Jesus's gospel. And so I'm with Celine on this. We come to church on Sundays to learn about Jesus, to learn about the Bible. And Deji, you were talking about, the church used to be responsible for, or I think it may have been Paris. The church was responsible for organizing food drives and this and that. And it's like, in order to do that, they need money. And so the people in the church are responsible for providing that money for the churches to do the food drives and the back to school drives with. But in the church, because again, I'm a believer, I go to church consistently, there's been this abandoning of our individual responsibility to give so we can support the community, to educate ourselves so that we know who to vote for. It is not your pastor's responsibility to prop up your candidate in front of you, to feed the neighborhood, to do this, and that. As
yes,
individuals,
they literally are community.
To be a part of the community, they
not,
is,
I'm
but
talking about them individually. As a community, as a church, it is our responsibility to give our money and go with our pastor to feed the community. It is not your pastor's job to prop up the community on his shoulders. And it's not his job
that's the church's job. That's what it does.
That's exactly what the church does.
That's what the church does.
He is literally.
So when you go reading the Bible, like, they were
he's the face
at the church.
The pastor is the face.
The church, not the pastor.
The pastor is the face, but the pastor is not doing it by himself.
But the pastor is the leader. He decides where the stuff goes. There's a
board. He's not the only person that makes a decision. There's a board.
He's part of leaders that are on the board. But if the board is just his homies, like I'm saying,
I don't know. The board ain't just the homies. There's a
y'all are saying this. Y'all are saying this from the standpoint as if every church is operating as they should be. We know
I'm talking about the standards. I'm not talking about individual churches. I'm talking about what the biblical standard is.
I'm talking about what the reality is.
Because there is a standard that exists.
Right, but if the pastor goes, hey, we're going to feed the community, then it's going to happen. If he's not for it, it's not.
If the people in the church don't give
a board.
No, but normally people in the church do give. Where the church money
that's
goes,
common. We know people are giving to the church. Even if people are not giving, the funds themselves are mitigated to the church by the government. Literally, the pastor is like a tax write-off. Getting that job itself, like he's literally getting write-off for that job. So it's like everything that y'all are saying, I correlate, me personally, because some of y'all may not, I correlate the church and the pastor of community to be just as much as a husband to the leader of his house. His voice does matter. And things that are happening, the pastor should be out in the neighborhood, seeing what's happening with the children, seeing what's happening in the home, seeing what's that's the pastor should absolutely know what's going on in schools. Right. He should absolutely know what businesses are being shut down. Yes. He should know how his community is being impacted.
Absolutely, and so should the people that go to the church.
That's why
I'm saying that. What I'm saying is, as an adult, I am aware of those things individually, but the idea that the pastor shouldn't be leading that conversation is where you're losing me.
And that's also ratchet Christian. That's also under the assumption that the people that go to a lot of these churches are even like literate past a 8th grade level, right? I come from the hood, and the people in my church, they didn't know nothing about politics. They didn't know nothing about anything outside of Chattahoochee, Florida. We got 2 stoplights in our town. So while they should be learning about those things, growing up, we didn't have access to those things. Those things weren't in our face. We didn't have exposure to it. So I didn't really start getting into politics until I joined the military. So it works in a place where individuals have a certain level of education, certain level of people coming back and bringing back into the community. But a lot of places aren't like that at all.
Yeah, which I know that a lot of places aren't like that, but that's the standard. That's how they should be. It shouldn't just be a pastor who's the end all be all to everything. It should be a well-informed, biblically minded, politically minded congregation of, church full of people. If the pastor is the leader and he tells you what you're doing on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and he tells you how to vote, that's called a cult.
But we're not telling you how to vote. You didn't ask him to tell you how to vote. I asked him to facilitate the conversation. I asked him
to facilitate that conversation on a Tuesday, but not on Sunday.
Right after Bible study on Wednesday, if you choose to stay, we're going to facilitate a conversation about all of the candidates, not just the ones that are giving money to this church.
Exactly.
Because that makes sense.
That's
literally what I said.
Everybody, I think me, Deji, and Smooth said, hey, we are all in cahoots that nobody should be getting up and giving a speech during the middle of Sunday service because the people.
Nobody should be giving a speech at all.
What do you think
all,
politicians
unless
do?
every
They
candidate
lobby.
is there to give
You
their
should
Lobbying
see
and
this kid
speech.
coming
speeches.
to my church on a
No,
Sunday.
but here's the
That's
thing, though.
exactly what politicians do. Lobbying and speeches. They give speeches. Obama, when you see him, he giving a speech. That's
A
what they
church isn't
do.
a place for that.
And
A
that's
Yes,
church,
he
when and
is.
that's
And
on
very
his
much so
time,
used
not
to be.
on Sunday
church
at
is not
my
a place
church
for that.
and not on Wednesday at my prayer night. My thing is, if we're going to set an educational segment, make it educational about every single candidate and every single thing, but not on my prayer night, not on my Sunday sermon. You can set that time at a separate space for an like she said, or whichever way, Lord. Let it be separate. Hey, we're going to break down politics and break down what, when you vote for this, what this means. When you vote for this, what this means. When you vote for this person, what this person is standing for, XYZ, this and a third. But what I'm not for is when you have one person there, to me, that means you're in handshake agreement with that person and you're pushing that
So
person on to that.
every
I don't care.
Meanwhile, that
I get
candidate
what
is
y'all are complaining about,
anti-biblical,
but
pushing
most
abortion on the Black community, which most of these candidates do. And so because the churches want the money, they don't vet these politicians. It's just that, well, they donated, so that we could fix our roof. Never mind what their policies are on same-sex relationships. Never mind what their policies are on abortion. Never mind what their policies have been in the past. They're giving the church money, so let's open our doors to them. No. Historically, that has not benefited the Black community, and it should not continue. Like she said, and I'll say this one time, and then hopefully we'll be moving off the topic. As the church, if the church wants to organize a city council night, as a church together, we're gonna meet at the church parking lot. There's gonna be a bus to take us to the city council meeting so that we can sit in and listen to all the candidates. I'm absolutely for that. That is amazing. But it should not be so and so mayor gave us, $50 for the prize. So
Historically, that's inaccurate
what
because even with the church having watch me and having community policing, that was a thing, and it stemmed from us having political candidates that also came into the community and understood what Black people were dealing with. And even when violence increased in our safety, that was at one point in time I was growing up, we can go to sleep without a door unlocked. It changed overnight, but the idea that, hey, this doesn't happen this way, that's just not historically true.
yeah, but things are different now. So it was
Right.
like that.
No, where
It was
now,
productive in the
things
past.
are also different.
I'm talking about now. I'm
The
talking about
only way you're gonna get back to what it was is if you have to do the work and the labor that they did before we got here.
Exactly.
We literally only got here because we stopped doing that work.
Shout out to Reverend Jesse Jackson, literally a political figure and an activist who had a church, put it in the Black community on the south side of Chicago, because I went and took pictures with him, and that's exactly what he was doing.
Right, and the government
Okay,
also
but every
uses
single
him
day
to
was
keep
he
the
beating
temperatures
them?
down in the Black community.
But
He's one of the
Monica,
handlers
was
in the
the
Black
same
Was he
community.
thing.
beating their
He
head
was
every
a
Sunday
pastor of a
about
church.
politics? No.
I want to
So,
make sure I get this off real quick.
can we move on to the actual question?
Yeah,
real quick, last thing, if I may. When I think about it, I think, and I remember, is it Celine?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you brought up, hey, when you bring politics, you can't, you're either all in or all out. I do disagree with that. It's when I say, hey, politics within it, I go deep, and I'm talking about values of the church and the people who attend that church. When I think about values, I'm not thinking about a politician getting up on stage. I'm not thinking about handing out pamphlets about what's on the next on someone's agenda. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm getting right down to the Bible, with teachers from reading directly from the Bible and what it's teaching. That's why I always recommend people go to a Bible-based church. We're not talking about opinions here. We're talking about your faith and what the Bible says about your values. There are certain things that happen within our government and our politicians and stuff like that, in which we want to see better within our community. And a pastor coming up and being like, hey, there has recently been something that has happened that's changed policy-wise that is going to affect us, or is going to put us at a detriment, or I'm going to put it out there, and we don't want our congregation to be affected. Now we're going to step up, and we are going to make sure you know about it, because it may truly affect you. It may truly affect the congregation. It may truly put us at a disadvantage when it comes to people. All the politicians and all that stuff, that should not be brought to the forefront. But when it comes to teaching the gospel and teaching values and how the Bible interprets you, treating the next man as you want to be treated, that probably want to say unfortunately, does still attach itself to policies within the Black community.
Okay.
Now we can move on.
Okay, I'm a end it here. At the end of the day, the pastor has an emotional tie to the congregation. Can we all agree on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So therefore, if just like we were saying, if the pastor does say something or bring something to somebody's attention in a certain way, that is persuading them to do something, whether they don't know. My thing is, there's one thing to educate somebody about something and letting them make their own choice, or being like, oh, this is going to put us in big detriment. What if somebody doesn't agree? But now you have somebody that you trust. But now you have somebody that you trust telling you about something. That's just exactly because it's about a congregation. You're talking about educating,
allowing you to talk to your congregation, because your congregation is you're the mouthpiece for your congregation. It shouldn't be like this, but we know it is. In a lot of places where the pastor is having their own opinion and blah blah blah. When you are speaking to your congregation, there have been a bunch of people who have come up to you and be like, "Hey, this is affecting our congregation as a whole." When it gets to that point, then it needs to be spoken on.
And I don't want it to be lost in translation that there are plenty of people who go into church every Sunday and the pastor has said 3-4 messages in a month that they ain't agree with none of them sermons. Like, I don't think church is always supposed to be agreeable either. Even when you're just talking about the religious aspects of it, right? We have this issue amongst us in general. We're people. We have an indifference. I don't want to sit here and berate the fact that I keep saying I don't think that it's wise to pull somebody up in the congregation. Politicians work for the people. They should be very much so humbled to know that they shouldn't be sitting on a high horse like Nancy Pelosi and constantly getting a higher salary increase off of tax dollars every freaking year. But in the same regard, a lot of our issues is because we did stop making them have to come to us. Now they think we're a caricature, like the Ratchet Christian mentioned, where they are pushing out Black people like Diddy, who was up in early 2000s talking about get out and vote on BET. Now they are pushing out people who are rallying like Megan Thee Stallion just to sing a song. And, you have Jasmine Crockett calling Cardi B her sister. That is because they quit coming to talk to us. They think we're caricature. They think we're moniker. They take us as a joke.
Okay. The question was, what are the number one problems hurting our community and how do we fix it? I'm just going to move on because I feel like we're going in circles and I feel like we
financial literacy.
Dead the conversation.
That's a big
one.
Finances.
Yeah, financial literacy is a big one. I think we need to be educated more in the Black community about our finances. It's something that puts us in a hole, because when a baker or whatever is coming up in here and giving you a deal that's too good to be true, or when someone comes and tries to bring you something that you might not know about, or you're signing a contract, it's best to know, okay, this is a little too good to be true. And also when it comes to like savings and establishing structures to where your finances can grow. I think that's very, very important that we should be taught.
But it's also restructuring family and finances. And we don't talk about like what that looks like for Black people to be very intentional about, like, if this relationship doesn't work out with this broken home, I need to be trying to go make another. You will not win not pulling together resources. It's just no such thing. I don't care how we cut it and we slice it. A man living outside of a home of a woman, there are 2 rents being paid. That is not helping nobody.
I also
I
think it's
can.
the intentional gender division conversations that we constantly have on social media, all these podcasts and platforms where our men and women, they come from a standpoint of a conversation where it's one side or the other and they constantly attacking each other. I think it creates more of a divide between us.
I think division is a thing as well. I'm gonna go from the standpoint of division and financial literacy. I was living in Frisco 4 years ago, or 6 years ago. I was living in Frisco 6 years ago. We had a team of 4 guys that mowed our lawn. I think on one of the past pods I've said this before. We had a team of 4 guys that mowed our lawn. Um, After a while, we would see 2 guys, but then we would see the other 2 guys in a different part of our neighborhood. And then next thing you know, there would be 2 more people with the original 2 people and 2 more people with the other original people. And then next thing you know, you only see 1 person from the original crew and then 3 other people. So my thing is, at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, they were building together, because now it went from 1 truck to 2 trucks to 4 trucks with those same 4 original people, and now they are building with each other. um I feel like I feel like us in our community, there's a leg up type of mentality that we have, or a um where we want to best each other versus, like pulling each other up. We will get to a
Yeah.
certain point. We will get to a certain point of success. We will get to a certain point of education. We will get to a certain point, and then we become too good to, you know what I'm saying, like help others. Within these past couple of years of my life of 28 years is the first couple of years that I've seen more Black people gathering together and actually, you get what I'm saying, putting forth the effort to not belittle the people that aren't on the same wave length of education and success that they are. But there is still a space where I think that we can fill the gap in. And like I said, I just left a gas station where there's a check cash place right in the liquor store. People don't have bank accounts. People
Yeah.
get their people get their paper check and they go cash it, and then they're buying liquor because it's accessible right then and there. We have more there. I'm not gonna go to the neighborhood that I was in Frisco, and there's not gonna be 3 McDonald's. There's gonna be 3 Chick-fil-A's maybe, and maybe 1 McDonald's. There's not gonna be, you get what I'm saying? There are certain dynamics in our neighborhoods that um, we we don't. I feel like if we poured back into ourselves more, we would have more control over how our communities do look. And, you know, that comes down to financial literacy and coming together at the same time more than what we have been showing up for. We can all show up to a concert. We can all show up to the Freaknik. But when it comes down to showing up for, our communities and stuff, that's where the numbers lack. And it's, you get what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we can show up, we can come together, we can party, but when it comes down to the real stuff, what are we showing up to do for real? I've seen less numbers at a back to school program to get backpacks and stuff than I have at a Freaknik.
That's true.
Yeah, and I think there comes a point where I'm not gonna say, well, I kind of have to say it this way, but I don't mean it this way. Like, you're gonna have to somehow marry the, you're gonna so look, you're gonna have to somehow marry the two. Like, you have to meet people where they are. And so if people are at a Freaknik, you know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. Why on like, you'll have a that one street in Austin where everybody parties at, right?
6th Street.
6th Street,
Yeah.
right? So on 6th Street, if you go to either end or in the middle, sometimes you'll see people, and even they do this in New Orleans, you'll see people trying to preach on the corner or whatever. Like, it's not because they should be there preaching, it's just because some of these people if you, no matter how many times you pass out a pamphlet or you're at church, you'll never see them. They only show up for Freaknik. That's what they show up for. So you're gonna have to give them the information at Freaknik, the community information. At
I'm
Freaknik.
sorry, I'm over
I
here.
disagree.
It sounds
I'm
crazy.
over here
He's
like
not
all I see
lying,
is
but it's
all I
extreme.
see.
It's
All I
like
can
they
see in
can
my
do better.
head.
No,
All I can see in my
disagree.
head
No,
is
It
booty
sounds
shorts
crazy,
handing out
but
backpacks.
You're not wrong. I
no,
can see what you're saying.
We
You're
have
not
to
wrong.
call our
no,
people
no,
to
for real.
more.
Hold on. But
No.
for real. Some of those organizations, they used to do that. They used to have like stuff would be together in a way to where you would get all the information at once. Now,
That's true.
I'm not saying there's somebody like actively, you know what I'm saying, at Freaknik, you know what I'm saying, hey, here's how you get a bank account, but at least there's some information there. You know what I'm saying? Businesses used to come out there and hand out their stuff. Like there was like there was a forum for that. That's what I'm
Here's
saying.
why
I'm
I
saying
disagree. I
Yep.
disagree because I feel like it when you're like describing that, it kind of like brings to my remembrance like when the Democrats say like voter ID laws are racist against Black people because they don't have IDs. It's ridiculous. I feel like we have to call our people to more instead of either, lowering the bar because we assume that they can't reach it or meeting them where it is that they're at. If you're never challenged, you won't learn your potential. I believe in excellency. I believe that we can have a culture of excellency. And if we set the bar high and people fail to reach it, at least we know what the standard is and then we help them get there. We're not going to, because you won't do a backpack drive for your kids, we're going to throw a party for you. And then while you're there, you can also get the backpack. No, that means you don't.
no, I'm not saying that.
I think y'all
not
have
literally.
a conversation.
I know that's not what
He's
you're
talking
saying.
about accountability versus what he's saying actually happens. Like, because her mindset is perfectly fine. But the idea is, truth be told, many people talk about Black people lacking education, but I was always taught we pride going to get it. Everybody talks about how Black people don't value education, and literally, I couldn't do my homework. I mean, I couldn't go outside unless I did my homework.
We're the
So,
most college educated group. Black women
well,
are the most college educated.
no, we're not. We're the most enrolled, but never here nor there. What I'm saying is, he's not wrong in the sense of what happened. There are literally people who will put themselves, missionaries do it all the time, right? Like they go into the line of fire to say, hey, let me meet these people where we at because I want to redeem their soul. And it's just not Christian stuff, right? Businesses do it. Businesses who are local say, hey, let me go and give out samples. Let me go do groundwork. Let me go, but I get where you're coming from. We have to hold these people accountable too to say, hey, we're not going to get better if we're always conforming and adapting to your BS.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just really like, because everything used to be so communal, and I think we've become so individualistic. It sounds, when I say it, it sounds really crazy.
It
but,
doesn't though.
But
and it was a reason why I was like that too, Brian. Like we know people didn't have vehicles. Transportation wasn't a real thing. It wasn't really heavy. If you had a vehicle, you were a part of like, a little bit more well off, right? Like a lot of this stuff wasn't happening because people were mediocre. A lot of this stuff was happening because of the lack of resources or extensions that people had. It was easier to build a park around a bigger community of houses and stuff like that because I mean, why would people want to go outside of their neighborhood to go to a park?
Mm-hmm.
A state park at that, and I'm saying that from where I come from. Like Arkansas state parks, they're out the way. They're literally on all the state parks are on the countryside. So yeah, we want a swimming pool in the middle of the community where we can go and pit money. A lot of it wasn't about mediocrity. I understand where she's coming from, but the reason why I know you're not wrong is because they did it at arm's reach, right? Like there are people they still today, we don't talk about it, but the majority of Black people are not living in major cities. Majority of Black people are not economically advanced, and majority of Black people where they commute at do not have the level of development to today that we have. And I think King mentioned that. Like, no, I still know my cousins who have track phones. They ain't got it like that. They don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as things get more like financially like impossible, or like it becomes more of a dire financial situation where people, their wages aren't where they should be and all that, I think we have to do a little bit more work to outreach to these people to get them that information. Now, what they do with it, that's them. But if we just hand them the information and you don't make yourself better, that's on you. I'm not holding everybody else accountable for that. We're gonna keep moving forward with the people that actually took that information in and want to do more. You know what I'm saying? If they want to pull together and they want to build this business together, because I know plenty of like Asian communities, they'll start with one business. They'll pull all their business together. They'll start with one nail shop. Then next thing you know, they build a massage parlor next to the nail shop. Now they own the whole strip mall, and they said, you know what? Let's just get a little extra money from people outside of our community. Let's build a hair shop. So now they selling to the black community, and now we're mad that they're selling to us when all they did was pull together, and then they seen we had a gap, and they said, you know, we're gonna just feed that need.
And part of that is each one reach one, teach one, which we have lost. And that's also why I don't always all the way lean into the ratchet Christian, because whether people want to believe it or not, it is on us to go and educate. It is. If you see a black kid who can't read, you need to teach that kid how to read if you know their parent is not able to, especially if they don't have the same level of education. If it, you know, they need to know, hey, you don't have to go to school just to be in this level of, they shouldn't only be going to school to say you only need to be a doctor or lawyer. They need to know about these other degrees that they can actually go and pivot into, because you don't have people walking around saying, hey, you should go to college for this reason, or you should go to trade school for this reason. You have adults who are going, they're figuring out, they're not going back to have the conversation. They're posting on the internet telling you how they came up and got the money. That is the problem. We do need to be having that conversation. Each one, reach one, teach one. We do need to be meeting them at their level.
I absolutely agree. Smooth, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you all, get to discuss a myriad of topics. Some we disagreed, some we didn't disagree. I have to head on another call, but I really enjoyed just meeting you all and getting to have this amazing discussion. And I'll see you guys soon.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bye,
Thanks.
girl. Nice to meet you.
You too. Bye, guys. Have a good one.
Hey, girl. Hey, y'all.
Celine, every time I hear you talk, that's what comes to mind. Hey, y'all.
Okay.
I couldn't hear you.
Let's go to. Does anybody have anything else that we should do to any other problems we should solve?
My biggest one was finances. I think that's a conversation we could beat a dead horse on all day.
Okay. Well, real quick before we move on, and we'll move on now. I think a big thing between here in the United States and in other places, because I've experienced both sides, is the individualistic mentality here in the United States versus more of a community type in other places. And I see it all the time. In fact, my father used to complain about it all the time. Living on both sides here in the West, it's always about me. How can I get further? And I will admit sometimes because I grew up here, I could think that way myself. But over there, it's how can we move us forward? How can the community move things forward? Which is why a lot of the other communities that we see here, we always wonder to ourselves, well, how does the dollar stay so long in the Asian community? How does the dollar stay so long in the Jewish community? Is because they come from places with that us forward mentality. And
that's why black relationships don't last long.
Yeah, and I think, and if we could just, I don't know how, maybe you guys are a lot smarter than me. We can figure that out. I think we'd be better off.
I don't even know my neighbors, and I've been here over a year. That's
really crazy.
Yeah.
When I was in San Diego, it was the first time I had a neighbor come up to me like, "Hey, I'm getting everybody's number, so if we see something or anything crazy is going on, we can at least text each other and check in on each other, because nobody else that did that. Like, she just caught me in the hallway while I was taking out trash. She's like, "Oh, hey, I finally caught you." I'm like, "What you mean you finally caught me? You looking at your peephole? Like, what's going on?" But at the end of the day, like, she was like, "Hey, I want to get you involved in our community,
My neighbor actually watches my house when I go to Arkansas or out of town anywhere. My neighbor, him and his girlfriend, they watch my house. The other neighbor, his son, met his wife. His son is actually a flight attendant, a pilot. And he also works for the airline. And so he does a lot of travel, and they're actually Indian. And then my other neighbor, I met his mom. He has a son. I pretty much know all of my little community here.
That's good.
Yeah. All right. So, topic number 3. In what ways can the Black community set itself up for success in the future?
I feel like it falls back on the same things that we said on the last question, honestly. Financial literacy, reach one, teach one, whatever you just said, and coming together as a unit, a little bit more, like I said, instead of just showing up at the Freakniks, show up at the back to school programs as well. I mean, it's a yes, choosing a yes from everybody that, or not that, but choosing a yes for everybody to be able to move forward into a better way or a better stride to get where, we used to have communities that thrived, that, we were the welders, we were the contractors, we were, so many things. And now we, have kind of not poured into ourselves enough to, get the result that we need for our communities.
I have one sentiment for this, and I'm gonna let the men carry it. We need to learn to be more agreeable to being disagreeable, and we need to be okay with that. Every single conversation we are having, I don't care where it is. It could be a podcast, it can be on social media discourse, it can be literally in the community. It doesn't matter. We are so uncomfortable with not being agreed with. And that doesn't mean because I don't agree with you, I'm silencing you. And it doesn't mean because I don't agree with you or I'm challenging your opposition that I want the wrong thing for you or I don't have the same end goal as you. A lot of Black people, especially on social media, a lot of our discourse, and I'm guilty of it as a content creator, is based around disagreement. And we need to get more comfortable with saying this person has the right to disagree with me. And that doesn't mean that they are not thinking for the best of me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because you can see it when people are disagree with, like they get very
defensive and shut down.
Yeah, defensive and shut down, and like they don't want to actually like engage with what you're saying. Like, cause I've learned this from doing like debate panels, is actually trying to get down to the nitty gritty of what this person is saying and where my actual disagreement is. Because if you stay on the surface level, you just keep disagreeing. But when you break it down, then it goes, okay, I'm really talking about how you're doing it, not versus what you're doing.
Right.
And I think a lot of us in the community, we benefit from like getting, like just sticking with the idea and trying to figure out how it can be done in a way that actually suits us all. Because some ideas are bad, the execution is poor.
Bringing it full circle, that does go back to the slavery conversation. Why should we, should we quit talking about it? And that goes back to the no. Because me disagreeing with your perspective about something doesn't mean that I want the worst for you or I don't have the same level of aligning thought process as you. That doesn't mean harm. And I think that we're impeding more sensitivity because we're not comfortable with having uncomfortable conversations with our parents, with our friends, at work. We don't take conflict very well with feedback. We don't deal in constructive criticism. We only lean to straight criticism. That's not what's happening all the time.
And it helps you, and it does help you grow as well when it comes to, and make sure we're clear about this. It has to be constructive criticism, because There are people who will come in to disagree with you just to disagree with you, and which is why I'm always open to listening to people who disagree with me. Now, the issue what I find is if we're not operating at the same base. For example, if me and someone else are talking about I don't know, some political whatever, and my base is this is how we should go about it for a particular community, and their base is that community should not exist at all. I'm like, okay, now we're not operating at the same base. Now we're fundamentally different. But if we're operating at the same base and there's a disagreement about how we should go about things, that is constructive. That we still may not reach an agreement on how I go about it, but at least there are now options on the table. We have discussed it, and knowing that it's for the betterment of something is us progressing and moving forward. I want to toss something at you guys that I think most people don't readily think of, and this is because I'm in film and TV. I think something that's super important for us to set ourselves up for success is actually controlling the narrative through film and TV. It is one of the most powerful tools out there. It's what gets information out. It's how people think of you because they watch these visual formats. And I think someone once asked me, what is the United States' biggest export? This was a while ago. And I was like, when I was young, I was like, oh, I don't really know. I don't know. They said the U.S. biggest export is our media.
Yep.
Our culture.
Newspaper, television, radio, journalism.
Exactly. There are so many countries out there that know so much about us, that know so much about our culture, that know so much that they steal the culture, take the culture over there and make it a part of theirs. Now, if we're able to go about, control the narrative by making sure information gets out there about, different Black experiences. This not everything has to be about slavery. Then we're able to make a positive change within that. I think one of the best things that I saw happening, and people have been talking about this, is as a streamer and one I Show Speed, who's been going to all these African.
Man, that Africa tour was dope as fuck.
Yeah.
He's doing something amazing.
Yeah, like you guys don't even realize just how great that is. Especially help because I remember when I was younger, you get people didn't value Africa like that. What's the one thing that we all know that they call us African booty scratchers?
Yep. They say it all the time.
Yeah. Everything about Africa, they always the media propagated Africa to be low in poverty. You always got to feed the children commercials. They talked about them not having running water. It's like we shouldn't be doing that either.
And my thing is, like, seeing that in like 1996, I was like, oh my God, this is so bad. I was 5 years old. Then I seen it again when I was 10, and I'm like, dang, it's still not fixed. I need to help them. Mom, can you send my money? You know what I'm saying? Don't do whatever.
I got a penny. I got 10 cents today.
And then I got 18. I went to college and I met somebody from there. And I'm like, hold on, bro. You got clothes. What's going on here?
Got shoes too.
Clothes.
Oh, they be having more drip better than us. Like, we not talking. Like, they gonna be fresh, bro. Like, they be having the jewelry and everything. They be laced up. They look nice.
Mm-hmm. What'd you say, Celine?
I feel like that's also propaganda, like where they made it seem like that Africa had nothing.
Yes.
They only showed us like the poverty parts, the poor parts, which
not the skyscraper.
Like that is,
and Africa does have those parts, but everywhere has those parts.
Everywhere has those parts, but they never. I didn't know that Africa was a rich country until I was probably like 15.
Yeah,
and that says a lot. You get what I'm saying? Like, I would have never known that Africa was as rich as it was, that they're very educated over there, that they are, you get what I'm saying? I would have thought, had I not been educated otherwise, that everybody from Africa was, with the lions and the hyenas. And unfortunately, that was just due to miseducation. And that perception
Like,
has been given out, you get what I'm
Everything was
saying, like majority of
hard
my life.
on a
Exactly.
But
desert.
but
Everything
also
was
Everybody
like
lives in a hut.
in a hut.
Everybody,
y'all
you
gotta
get what I'm saying?
realize a
Like
lot of
it's
these.
just everybody got to climb tree to get their food, or you get what I'm saying, hunt to get their food. Like
Yeah, I do
that's
that. What
what
you mean?
was taught to me, and it's like until I got educated, it's just like now I feel played. I feel straight played
But you also got to
because
realize a lot of these
my
charities that
African
people were
brothers,
giving to,
boy,
only like 30% of it actually went to the people.
I'm
yeah.
gonna leave that right there.
Oh, we knew
And
that. I found out they were stealing money, but not even just stealing money. It was just the intent of it. Anyways, it was grifting. But for the most part, that this entire conversation just came full circle. From the start of it till now. So when we talk about like what are the things that can make the Black community better, and we talk about our narrative, what hurts us so much is the fact that we are being studied on a regular basis. When they first put out the mask to be replicated on skin tone, the first thing that happened was a white guy got disguised as a black guy and he went to go steal because of stereotypes, right? Constantly pushing back on the narrative that all black men are baby daddies when they're the most active participating parents of today, right? Constantly pushing back on the fact of black women being poor or needing welfare when it's not us at all who have. I don't even qualify. Shout out to God.
I
You get what?
wish I had got some free money from somebody. I ain't never
Mhm.
got no free money, no free groceries, no nothing.
But
I
they're
can't say
studying
that until
AI.
I
But
Like
I
found
the
out
see
it's
first,
what
the
you're
illegal.
first,
doing for
the first
others. No, I'm
people
just
that went
playing.
out for the AI, the first voice that went out for an AI account was actually a black woman singing voice, and she was on TikTok, and she has a record deal. She's the first one signed. They didn't go get another Taylor Swift to do that. And she's one of the highest selling artists today. And we should always find a problem with that. It's not just music. It's also education. It's also the stereotypes and the violence. When truth be told, the most violent, it's not us. It's not.
No,
It's never been.
It can't be us because we're not the majority. That's
no.
first and
The
foremost.
majority is
Secondly,
not. It was just never our history. When they talk
yeah,
about how the black men treat us or how we treat it's literally a study, Celine, that proves the safest person you should find if a child is lost, or you should tell your child to find if they are lost, is a black woman.
black
The second
woman.
safest is a black man
Exactly.
for a lost individual child.
You be seeing these videos where they be doing
Walking
the
up to blind and
they be
needing
walking
help.
up.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, no, not even that, but when they're like they'll have a kid sitting on a bench and they'll have the
yeah,
guy like come up to the kid, and it's
yeah,
like you'll see who intervenes with that kid, or even like women walking
The
with a guy and
experiments.
she's doing the call signal for
yeah,
help. You get what I'm saying? Just
yeah.
stuff like that. So it's just, when it comes down to it, like uh, I forgot where I was going with that,
Have you
but
guys
it's
seen that
just
one video where, and I think this probably is the best, one of the best examples of there were two picketing sides. One is was full of black people, and the other one was full of like conservatives. And these two black women have their sign.
Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Hold on. He said one was
What?
full of black people, one was full of conservatives.
Yeah. Sorry, that's how I'm recollecting.
That's how his mind resonated.
So please,
I got
please
it.
allow me to continue. Allow me to continue real quick. And so they're shouting at this man who has his white baby in a stroller, and they're directing towards him. Next thing you know, a woman who's on the black woman's side, she comes through hot and heavy and starts shouting straight at the baby in the stroller, and the black woman immediately turn on her and be like, whoa, nah, we don't do that. We we are directing our vitriol towards this man, not the baby, because this man is who is opposing us. And they had to set their quote unquote white ally straight because she went straight for the baby. And I think that kind of adds to your point, Paris.
You know, I know what video you're talking about now.
Yeah,
yeah, that was egregious. I'm like, what you yelling at the baby for? Like,
yeah,
yelling at a baby is crazy that you don't know.
Yeah,
that's
it's like
unless you're trying to help the parent, like
yeah,
leave
and
the kid
it's like, you know,
Even
we're
then, like,
not the ones that are you know, what's it, white people really do take it to the extreme. It's they really do.
But if you notice, every single time you see one of those protest videos where it centers around human rights, because what Celine mentioned was we're seeing a lot of social experiments, right? So to piggyback off of that, when you see those videos about trans rights or you see those videos about abortion rights and things like that, the ones who are the adversaries and they're protagonistic, they don't look like us. It never has been us, you know, and so it's kind of disheartening because we don't have so much of our voice, which is why I wanted a Tyler Perry or, you know, the guy who is in part with the Weather Channel to own BT again. And it's sad that we don't have something so simple. They'll feed us baby boy over and over and over and over again. And it's like, you don't think Black Panther is still right. You can play it. You know, you get what I'm saying? The Color Purple, I ain't got to see that. That's not a part of just my history. So, but it says a lot when you're in media. And some of us do things in media, right? Kingonpurpose, Smooth, me, Deji. I know you're behind the camera, but even in front of the camera, I'm very mindful of how I show up in representation. And sometimes I'm not going to be perfect. You get what I'm saying? Sometimes I am going to say something that doesn't sit well or, propagates the Black community in a positive light. But I'm still very mindful of how I transcend those things because I know that there is somebody who is going to take it and use it as a weapon.
Mm-hmm. And I'm very proud of sort of of course we still have so much farther to go, but I am proud of how far we've come in terms of taking control of certain narratives. We're starting to see more stories out there in the media of Black people doing just regular human things. Black love stories, Black people having weird stories. People
everybody
just like white people make these weird stories that make it to the Oscars. Black people start to make these stories as well. Just we're not a monolith, and being able to express ourselves in such a creative way through visual arts helps move the narrative away from the past and us supposedly being dangerous or illiterate or any of those sorts of stereotypes.
Okay, so I do want to move us to the last question, but I also want to say I'll say that for another thing because that's going to start a whole nother conversation. I'm not going to say that. So why do Black women get called unreasonable, for asking the same things women in other cultures receive? I believe that was the question that was on that video.
Yeah.
Example.
I'm not a Black woman.
I think provision probably is one of the things where a lot of people look at it where some Black guys who date outside of their race are more easily doing certain things that our Black women ask for.
I can't hear anybody. Can y'all hear me?
Can y'all hear me?
I can hear you.
I can't hear him.
I can hear you, King. I can hear you.
I can't hear him.
Which one?
You can't hear Smooth?
I can hear Smooth. I can hear you. I can hear everybody except King, I think. That's why I'm like, what?
Hold on. Let me look at the...
She don't love me no more.
I might need to exit and come back in. It might be me. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have a nothing in the studio is telling me that you wouldn't be able to hear him. Yeah.
Is he just low or you can't hear him at all?
At all. When he was talking this whole time, I thought he was on mute and doing something else.
Oh, that's crazy.
No, he be talking.
Yeah, he been talking. He been talking.
Hey, I thought she just hated me. I'm not gonna lie to you. I thought she just hated me.
Like, I'm looking at his mouth moving, but there no words coming out. Run that question back again. Sorry, I was
Okay, so the question is
I actually gotta get to this live stream. So I appreciate y'all for having me and the opportunity. Smooth,
You didn't want to
always my
respond
boy.
and answer the question?
Yeah,
I did.
he got up out of that. He got up out of that quick. He got up out of that question.
I did.
A couple of minutes, and then you'll get head out.
I mean, I think the provision piece is one of the big ones. I said it because Celine couldn't hear me, but I think the provision piece is big ones. I think a lot of our women see Black men potentially doing things for women outside of our race that they ask for. But I think that's such a small group, and it happens in every other racial group. But it is oftentimes pinpointed.
So you basically think it's a narrative thing as well. Going back to the last thing,
1,000%.
Yeah, you think that
because I can use myself for an example, right? In my last marriage, everything that they have the conversation. Huh? I'm saying in my marriage, she got joked. But in my marriage, like, right, everything that I see a lot of our sisters on these podcasts talking about. I'm like, well, I was that guy.
Yeah.
Now I think it comes down to the people that you're dating, and also looking and believing that these things don't happen in other communities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I would say that as a Black woman, I don't share that experience, and I say that unmarried and childless and single, like completely.
You gotta say unmarried like that.
No. But I'm making the differentiation. I need to, and it's very important that I make the differentiation because it needs to stand that I have had nothing but relationship experiences with Black men.
Mm-hmm.
I have had nothing but proximity to intimate partnerships with nothing but Black men. There has not ever been a Black man who sat down and told me, bitch, you need to accept whatever I'm coming with. Nobody has ever vocalized those things to me. Not one who's laid with me, not one who's been friends with me, not one as a cousin, a brother, my dad, my uncles. Nobody has said verbatim, you need to accept whatever I'm coming with. And I think that needs to be stated as a single, unmarried, childless Black woman, so we can get to the crux of looking at the grass is green on the other side. Because every time I see push gifts, and every time I see houses being made, and every time I see little DIY projects, and every time I see cars being bought, and I see it from Black men. And
I think all that is help push gifts. I ain't buying no push gifts.
Well, you may not have, but I said that to say my thing is, as a woman who does not have a current successful intimate partnership, I think that we are asking for Black men who don't really see long-term things with us to give us things off the cusp of us that you just supposed to as a man. But the double-edged sword that comes with being a Black woman that has a voice in her community, that gets to be heard, that gets men to rally behind her and support her is you can't have it both ways. And we never talk about the fact that those women show up and shut up. I don't have to shut up.
I didn't hear anything of what he
Celine,
said,
you
so
hear me?
I don't. I can hear you now, but I didn't hear anything that you said before, so I'm sorry. I can't really comment on what. Is there a brief maybe, or like?
He's basically saying that he believes the narrative because everything that he does is representative of a man that does support Black women and is generous and all of that. So yeah,
I also think like this shouldn't be a conversation between somebody you're just dating.
No, it should not. And I think
like in a marriage, like I'm a traditional man when it comes to marriage, right? The whole nine, besides that push gift shit, I don't think that's traditional.
It's not. It's not. Some shit that started from Dubai, and then they started doing it over here because one lady who went viral for it, and you get what I'm saying.
but like I'm a provider. My ex-wife never had to touch any bills, but she was also a traditional woman in the same sense though. So I also think a lot of non-traditional women are asking for traditional things, and that is also part of where that narrative is coming from.
The idea that dating too, which we don't talk about, it is a new concept to Black people. Dating is very much so. The idea of I can autonomously get up, decide I want to go out with this person and simply enjoy their company without any strings attached is very new to Black people. And we don't like to have that conversation. The idea of sex and promiscuity and pregnancies and things like that, that was something that always was around. But, simply getting up, going to school dances and, they talked about it. But in retrospect, that wasn't something that was common. A lot of times when a man came to date you, he was taking you away from your family in general. It was going to end in marriage to some degree, or you guys were going to have a baby and you were going to end up married. But the idea that I can just date, right, that wasn't happening in the 90s like they propositioned it on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That wasn't a common thing.
Yeah, because people think that they have options. That's why people think that they have options. Social media, you can go look at this girl, this man, that man. You
Yeah.
can go see all these different flavors. You can taste the rainbow, so you will. So therefore, people think that they got options instead of, oh, it was John and Kate down the street from each other, and they grew up with each other, and you get what I'm saying? They had to send letters and be cute, and that was all they really seen. So therefore, that's what they gravitated towards. Versus now, John can see Kate, Cindy, Rebecca, the whole nine, and so can Kate. Kate can see Tom, Dick, and Harry. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
now to put it into perspective, Celine, you're not wrong at all. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. But I do want to say that for the Black people that went to college, they got a different level of exposure outside of their community too. So they also got the the aforementioned of options that people on social media have today. It's just maximized. But people from college, if they didn't go to college where they were from, if they went in state, but it was in another city, they absolutely felt the same way.
Yeah, and I think
All right,
that.
Smooth, before you go,
Yeah.
I have the extra stage left. I appreciate y'all for having me.
Oh,
Paris, did I answer the question?
Yeah, you did this time. You was trying to play fast, and I said, "Wait a minute now."
Hey, but no, I really do. I appreciate y'all for having me on the podcast. I think Deji is the only person on the spot because I haven't met yet. I know Celine, Smooth, Paris, and I'm definitely planning on coming back through having a conversation with y'all. I appreciate y'all.
Have a good night.
So, I guess what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I think that a lot of times when people are dating, they have an expectation that's outside of their tax bracket. Like if you're going to date someone that let's say he's a high school teacher, right? He's not going to be able to take you out to Benihana's every night. Like it's just not going to happen. He's on a teacher's salary, you know? You just got to know who you're dating. I think some people, they're dating regular people and they're looking at these other people that are getting like all this stuff and they go, oh my God, you should be doing that too. I'm like, he's not there yet.
Not even if he's not there yet, it's social media.
I think that goes back to Celine's point of the social mediafication.
Social media. Social media is teaching people that, first of all, you're following people that you're not aligned with. You're not in the same tax bracket as them. You're following people that you don't have the same money as. You don't have the same money as Moneybag Yo that buy Ari X, Y, and Z. You don't have the same money as who these people is NBA young boy, whoever. I'm not versed right now with.
I get what you're saying. You ain't got.
But basically, you're not in the same tax bracket to even place yourself.
You ain't gonna get no Bentley like Megan Thee Stallion.
Comparison is the thief of joy. First of all, so my thing is, a lot of women And I'm gonna start there. A lot of women will be like, "Oh, this man need to do X, Y, and Z, and I need to go on a trip to Dubai. And if he not doing this, and the third, blah 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 blah." But then they can't even do it for themselves. That's first and foremost. Secondly, and then you have men that be like, "Oh, she got to have a body like this, and the third." Meanwhile, he look like he done had 20 beers in one day. Because of the standard of social media. So my thing is, at the end of the day, it's like you have men and women on both sides that are looking at things that they can't even obtain, no matter when you're dating or who you're dating. Like I seen a post, when you're dating a woman is expensive regardless, but there's a level of how expensive that she is. Pick what's in your tax bracket. And it's same with the men. When you want a successful man, there are certain things that come with that. There are certain times when you're not going to be able to be around him because he is working. There are certain things that, you get what I'm saying, that there are certain things that come with everything. And then my thing is, there are people that are happy about, or oh, they got married, or they got engaged within 6 months or a year. Meanwhile, he cheated on her, and that he just trying to, you get what I'm saying, make sure that he's being able to keep her, and that's the only reason why it's a ring on her finger. And y'all been good for the past 7 years and haven't had any problems.
And I think also with those comparisons, Celine, comes I hate this so much, is when someone finds somebody that they do enjoy, and they might not reach all of their qualifications. Now social media is telling you that you're settling.
And that's not good enough.
Yes.
Now social media is telling you that you could do better. And
without acknowledging water breaches this level.
Yeah.
It's the reason why you associate with the people.
And now you're thinking to yourself, maybe I am Sally. Maybe I could do better. Instead of thinking, do I enjoy this person? Does this person value me? Does this person respect me? And can we live good together? Now you're, once again, there's the facade of options. Because while, you might, in terms of on the women's side, while you might have all these dudes in your DMs and your if you're on a social dating app, all this stuff, is how many of them want to be with you for you, and how many just want access to you. When it comes for dudes, how many of these women that you see out here actually want you, or are you chasing the idea of them, So when you think about this, and going back to the original question, when it comes to we feeling like other ethnicities or men are doing more for their women, it's once again a narrative thing. There are places on in everything. And sorry for the ice cream truck. That's for
I was like, is that the ice cream?
That's why he started laughing in the first place. I heard it a long time.
But yeah, that's what I think of that.
And can I also say that it's gonna rattle? Maybe I shouldn't say this. We even on such a positive note. What I have seen on social media, right? There has been an unsurmountable surplus of Black women getting a superiority complex over Black men because of money.
Yep.
You cannot have a man who grovels at your feet and adores you to the pit of hell if you're rooting for and you're winning with money. Here's the thing. I don't agree with everything Black men do. I have had my experiences with Black men. But in not agreeing with what they do in relation to what I would desire as far as a longevity relationship, I can acknowledge there is a constant stating of we are only loved for what we do. And if I can meet a Black man that I can show him, I can love past you how you show up financially, I'm more than willing to go through hell and high water with that man. And I think it needs to be something stated how we have embedded prostituting language, whorism, Like, just literally denigration of yourself, escorting. And we got completely okay with it. Transactional things. Still wanting men to show up and humanize us. There is no such thing. There is no such thing as a man overtly sexualizing you and paying for your body, sitting there respecting you as a human being. Those two things do not coexist. And to even mitigate wives or girlfriends down to that, when the intimacy of a relationship far extends past money and goes into, if we never had anything, can I sit in this cold, dark room and just like you? That's what we need to get back to. So I'm not going to say that there have not been Black women who have been told, you need to take what I can give you. I'm not going to say that that doesn't exist. But I am going to say the entirety of the narrative of me being a Black woman, me having dating experiences, me not being the ideal color, me not always having the ideal hair or the ideal body type, as social media and propaganda would like to push it. I haven't had a Black man tell me to settle for anything that he is coming with just because he's sleeping with me. Everything that I endured is because I sat there and I wanted to do it. Not because he held a gun to my head and say, you better stay with me and tolerate what I come with or else. And I think we need to really be honest and candid about a lot of that comes into what respect we have for each and other, right? Like Black people together as a relationship. We need to be candid about why we are not having longevity relationships on both sides. Because the men are very much so idealizing the fact that I think this woman would be good for me, even if that would make her unhappy.
And that's
That's a good
that
one
was a
right there.
good one. That was
That's a good one right there.
I was just about to say, for me personally, I have two experiences where what you just hit a nail on the head for is a man that wasn't enough and knew he wasn't enough and knew where he was coming, knew what he was coming over here dealing with, and pretended to be one thing and then turn around and was a whole nother. So it's like you'll have that as another thing. And then if you don't know about my child's father, you have that where you have someone using my child as a pawn to, because I won't be X, Y, and Z with him, roles reversed on what a child's father usually does with his baby mama.
Listen, we don't talk about that one enough either.
So there are the stigmas of like, oh, like if you're not doing X, Y, and Z how I want it to be done, this is what the result is gonna be. You get what I'm saying? Like my child's father is, he got money. He is in high figures. You get what I'm saying? Compared to me, where I gave 5 years of my life, you get what I'm saying, to somebody that I was young, didn't have education. You get what I'm saying? I could go on. So it's like you do have situations where there is that impact of you have to be XYZ or else, because now, because if that's not the case, then the result wouldn't be like what it is when it comes down to my child. And then you have other cases where men will pretend, or you get what I'm saying, like be
They
something
do
that they're
show up a
not,
certain type of way.
and show up as they show up as Superman, but really they Robin. And it's like, my thing is, if I can go and take myself to Joey's and have a drink, have an appetizer, have you date myself like that. If I can go in this store and buy this purse, if I can, not saying that you have to go buy me a purse, but it's like there are certain things that I can do. My thing is, if you don't have the aspirations, even if you can't do it right now, if you don't have the aspirations to grow with me in that sense, then I can't see where it would be, something that I can move forward with. But I promise you, the man begged and pleaded for me to accept something as simple as showing up for me in a certain way. You get what I'm saying? Like, if you're talking about marrying me, I'm sorry, your mother is not gonna be in a space to where she comes before me when I come into the household.
Hello.
There are going to be
Hello.
certain things that you when you leave your home, you get what I'm saying? Like, to me, you practice how you play. So at the end of the day, there are certain things that, like, I need to be showed up for emotionally. I need to be showed up for mentally. I need to be showed up for in a lot of ways that men nowadays, for me personally, I'm gonna say for me, don't haven't done, which is why I'm single now. And it's like, I think that um I think that men and women have this stigma of, like I said, at the end of the day, like, options. Oh, it doesn't work here. Well, I'm gonna roll on to the next. And it's like a slot machine. Which one can I win?
Can I go
Like,
back to
which
what you said?
coin and which machine is gonna hit?
Can I go back to what you said, Celine, when you
Hmm.
said that try to show up one way? Because I wanted to be clear that nobody is saying, hey, you need to accept exactly what this man is coming with verbatim, but it is being said in a different way. And I was actually just having this conversation with this guy, which is it's been constant now because I am single and I have a wide platform. So what that looks like is a lot of men feel like now it's my chance. You get what I'm saying? So
And don't.
I have hello, but what has been noticing, there has been an outpour of men who are single fathers, older than me, and I'm not saying like 2 or 3 or 5 years. I'm talking about exponentially older than me. Like, you got about 10 years or something on me, and they're trying to convince me that I should be with them, and I'm like, you do realize that you're you're making me your secondary option. You want me to be your redemption story. You don't have to tell me verbatim, hey, I need you to accept what I come with, to actually be saying, I would like for you to accept what I come with. Because as much as those men are qualified to be good men, we don't talk enough about the baggage, right? Or the
Yeah.
things that withhold us back. So the same way you have men who are financially stable, whether they have children or not. In Celine's case, right? They can pull the weight of a woman. But you also have those men who think, well, listen, because I haven't gotten here, I have an insecurity about myself. I need you to slow it down so people don't see I haven't gotten you here. And it's like, I don't look at provision that way. I shouldn't be able to say, I'm not going to eat out tonight because you locking in and you grinding. And because I'm associated with you or I'm under your purview as a woman who's dating you, I have to revamp everything that comes along with my comfort because you're like, hey, my finances don't look good right now. I didn't ask you for the money. I never want to ask you for the money. I said what I'm about to do. So why does that look like for you to tell me, hey, this isn't good, or you're trying to convince me of operating a different way because you like, I need to lock in, I need to sit down. I'm not traveling right now. I'm not, and it's like, I get it, but I also didn't come to you being a burden. I carry my finances very, very well for myself. So a lot of these things are not being said vehemently. I think they are being said. I think on social media, it's exasperated how it's very exaggerated to the degree that they're saying accept less or take less. Because every time I see black men talk about us and they actually being honest, they're enamored with us. They are like, it's so much so they doing some crazy stuff that I like. Y'all seen the boy sniffing panties. You need to stop doing that. But I'm just saying, it is
What?
being said passively, right? Like it's being said in our day-to-day interactions. It's not being said on social media. It's not being said on podcasts. It is being said in a very passive manner when trying to take interest in a woman in body language.
So I think one for both parties involved, men and women, black men and women specifically, they need to know exactly what they want and then go get that. Don't go to somebody else, try and get them to conform into something you want them to be. Prime example, there was a woman that I was talking to, and she wanted me to basically, I don't have kids. She wanted me to basically become a father, become a family. I'm like, man, I just want to have
Enjoy
a girlfriend,
Yeah.
enjoy you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the kid's there. I'm not going to treat the kid any type of way, but I'm saying I'm not here to be a family yet because I'm not even sure if I like you yet, let
Right.
alone love you enough to then accept everything that comes with you. I have
Right.
to get to know you, and I think a lot of people, their timing on when they want stuff and how they think things should go is in their own favor. They're not thinking about the other person and how that would make that other person feel. Like
Yes.
you can't ask somebody to accept something that they've never had accepted before. They don't
Right.
have to deal with
And
it.
then also discount them because they've never done it before. You're ready to
Right.
discount me as being a parent, but you also want me to show up in replace of a parent. You could just take that very energy and put it into somebody who want to be a parent with you.
Yeah. Your mans want you back. Just take
Hello, go get your family back.
take them back. Like if that's what you want, like don't come over here to me trying to get me to be this thing that I'm not. I'm
I
very
also don't think
transparent. Like
black
you knew
people.
what I was when you came here. I travel a lot. That's something I want to do. I don't want to hear about, oh well, I can't go. You shouldn't go. You should just come see me. No,
And I
absolutely.
don't think we're
I'm trying to
we're
go on my trip.
actually practicing monogamy. We're not. Like as much as people harp on it, when you
It's a
talking to
fest.
yes, well, it's not even just the sex. You're not lying. I wholeheartedly agree. But it's the interaction. What I'm saying, right? People pride being able to say they still in contact with their ex. They do. They love to finish the line. They pride being able to say he's still on my line. Man, I can hit her up right now. It's gonna be a go. They also pride being able to say that's my baby daddy. If I want him back, I can get him at any time. They pride being able to say date them all. There is no way you do not practice how you play. It never happened. I never understood people saying, I'm gonna wake up one day and change everything that I do for you, even though I've known you for 10 years.
And I've been
Humans
doing
don't
this.
humans
Yeah.
do not do that. There is not no way a man is gonna sit with you and wake up and say, you know what? I never brought her flowers before, but today, because it's a new Valentine's Day in the new year, I'm gonna go ahead and buy it. Because it's on Saturday this year and it was on Tuesday the last time I thought about it. People don't do that. So when you go into these situations and everybody's biggest hangup is cheating, which is not mine, my biggest hangup are other things because there are other narratives in relationships that actually play out that can be harmful. But everybody's biggest relationship is cheating because everybody's already practicing cheating.
Hey, that's fact.
Exactly.
That's fact.
Exactly. Thank God my coochie is with Jesus.
In
I ain't got
Jesus'
it on
name,
me.
amen.
I ain't got it on me. I don't even know where. I don't know where it's at actually. So unfortunately, just if you don't like that, you can't come over here. Um, I also wanted to double back and say that safety, women's safety, is a part of what we will accept and not accept when it comes down to a man. How safe I feel emotionally, physically, mentally around a man will allow me to accept certain things when it comes down to if you're not financially there, but you're supporting me in these ways and fulfilling me in these ways and pouring in my cup in these ways, the financial can come. And as so long as I see that you have aspirations to, like move forward with your life and
And we
educate,
lie a
whatever
lot
it
and
is.
say black women don't do that when we do. A
But
lot of
I'm
black
like,
women do.
I'm like, because my thing is like, I don't think there's one person in here that hasn't, fell for potential of someone, or you get what I'm saying, like where
Absolutely.
they may have been less of your standard or what you were used to or what you would like to normally deal with, but because you've seen X, Y, and Z and they fulfilled you in other ways, emotionally and whatever, that you had accepted that. So it's like, but also it's like for me, I can't sit up. There are certain things I don't know. It's for me, it's a double-edged sword because I just cut somebody off for consideration. Something as simple as consideration, and it seems small, but to me, I'm a little things matter type of person.
Celine, you remember January 1, like that night when we were talking, and I was saying how a lot of times people overthink interacting with people. And I think before we actually like deviated off of and got into like an impasse, now that I'm thinking about it, I think we were on the same page.
Yeah, we were.
A person really, especially for men, because we done dealt with men, we date them, okay? When he like you, it ain't difficult. Nothing is
It's not
difficult.
difficult at all.
I have never like I literally have been having this guy in my DMs for a year. I have tried to passively tip, hey, this is not gonna work for me. I'm not interested. To the point where I had to just be a bitch about it. If I would have literally just given him an opportunity, I'm pretty sure if I wanted the moon, he would have went and found a way for me to sit on it. When people really like you, it's not difficult. We have a lot of people who are stuck in the mental of dating like we're still teenagers. They date like they're still in high school. They want you to text and call them all day. The reality of it is I have a job. Sometimes
I
I will
have 2
about
jobs.
let me be able to say, you know what? I'm sorry. Yes, I was on my phone, but I apologize. Give me an opportunity to know how to deal in lack of consideration, and not in your case, Celine, but lack of consideration for you sometimes because I'm trying to mitigate you into my life, right? You are human to me. You are new. You are a stranger. I didn't wake up just liking you today. So that level of interest, a lot of times we don't like to acknowledge it, but it ain't always met equally. Sometimes she
And
likes you
that's
or you like her.
and that's another thing for me. Like, to me, you can always tell. I'm I'm going, I don't know if y'all gonna catch it. I'm gonna say a lot without saying nothing at all. You can always tell when you like somebody more than they like you. And that's very much so fair. To me, leave me where the fuck I was at then. You get what I'm saying? Let me know something. You get what I'm saying? So
But
my
that
thing
goes back
is,
into
if you
potential.
like some if you like somebody like that, you will consider them.
That's true. But it
If
goes back
you
into potential. We all do it unintentionally because we are taught that. Like, and it's not to say that it's right.
if you like somebody like that, you are in you and can't nobody sit here and say that somebody that they liked and that they wanted to pursue and that, you know what I'm saying, they have that energy and they have that connection.
It's
You're not
it's
gonna sit up here and
magnetic.
say that you're not gonna sit up here and say that any opportunity that you have something when it comes down to the simple things, that you have the
Mhm.
opportunity to do something simple for them, that you are not eager and willing to do
That's
those
true.
things.
You'll
So my thing
sacrifice.
is, at the end of the day, when you know, like, so something as small as consideration is very important because you will consider the person that you like always. You're
And
going to always consider them. Even if you don't act on it in that very moment, there's always going to be something in the back of your head that's going off like, oh, I haven't done
So
XYZ. I need to, you know,
I'll give this example. I'll give this example, right? There's a woman I'm dating. She has a business or whatever. She didn't really understand how to do a social media. So I just stayed on her ass and like literally mapped it out for her. I literally shot content for her.
that
I
was a
literally took
choice.
my camera that I use and I did it for her because I'm like, if you can't do it for yourself, I'm like, I'm gonna be here for you and I'm gonna show up and help you get there. Like this is what this should look like. And I went all the way out of my way, but that's because I care.
You
but
cared and you
also a
liked her
lot of
enough to do so. If
two
somebody
things.
don't like you, they're not, it's obvious.
Oh
So
yeah.
two things, right? With what you did is what black women expect all the time for every single situation, knowing that a man doesn't treat them in that level of regard. They expect a transactional interaction to be treated with that level of intention. The other thing about what Celine said is, and I want to be clear, just because we're doing it this way, don't mean it right. The idea of lack of consideration goes back to the potential. You're giving a person time to potentially see, would I like you? So I'm not going to show up to consider you because I'm potentially trying to even see, do I like you? Well, the issue is I already like you. So you know I already started hurting my feelings. And that's the problem.
And that's the thing. My thing is like, if there, communication is always a part of that, right? Like, you can communicate where you are in a space, you get what I'm saying? And like, for me personally, I'm always open to, communication when it comes down to it at the end of the day. So if there is a space where, oh, like, I need to analyze this and the third, or if I need to X, Y, and Z, then that's completely fine. Right. But then there's action versus words.
Correct.
That's a whole nother thing, right? If you can show up in these ways where now that I see in hindsight that it benefits you to show up in those ways, then obviously you'll show up in those ways even when you don't like somebody like that, because of the simple fact that it benefits you in whatever you're getting from it. Now, on the other end, that makes it confusing because of the simple fact of you're not communicating how you actually, you get what I'm saying? That's still showing up as pretending, if that makes
Now,
Yeah,
sense.
I
Nate,
think.
can I ask you a question? And this is
Mm,
kind of like the takeaway from like black women saying what we're saying, kind of to put it back in the men's court. Do
mm.
you think sometimes, based off of how black men are structured in society, in their socialization, that we don't give them enough of chance? Like,
I
are we?
give too many
No, no, no. I'm
chances.
not. I'm not talking about individually, because individually, I'm overtly understanding, right? So What I'm saying is, I mentioned earlier to Deji, and I said this for a reason.
Mm,
I have seen women mention that when they want a man, they want a man, and I'm gonna just quote it roundabout. He needs to be on the same level. I need to see that he's hustling the way that I'm hustling. And Deji mentioned something very pivotal. He said a lot of times when in other communities, he's watched them go and wait on the other person to catch up. What I've seen a lot of black women do is they don't want to wait. I can acknowledge we got like right now, Celine, you might be in your winter season. I might be being held back. But if we home girls, girl, your time coming. I'm gonna support you. I'm still here if you need me. You might be in your winter season, mine coming. God gonna show up for me and I'm gonna bless you when you get there. Do you not think we actually give that same leverage to black men? Sometimes we winning and we excelling and we think he's supposed to get up and turn around and his potential or his devotion or dedication to his goal is supposed to be the same turnaround rate. We're supposed to be moving at the same goal, but we don't realize that as an individual, you're still growing in a relationship. Sometimes
mhm.
God ain't trying to bless your husband for 2 years. He could be needing a different route, or bless your
Right.
boyfriend. He could need a whole nother different route or a restructuring of development than you. Sometimes you might just be there because you are his blessing. So what I'm asking is, do you think sometimes we give up on them too easy, mitigating potential or blurring the lines with potential with their actual development?
I've sat and taken care of a man for a whole year and some. So
Okay.
when I when I'm coming from a standpoint, I've seen it in all angles. I've seen it where my child's father is a millionaire and I ain't have to want for nothing. And I've seen it to where I was taking care of a man from head to toe, from
Okay.
household to work to showing up in every single way, putting the food on the counter, and still at the time when I wasn't absent, still showing up
That's my man.
romantically, emotionally, physically, you get what I'm saying, every single way possible. So
Yeah.
my thing is I've been on both extremes, the middle and everything in between. So for me, it's like there's not a lot of women that can say that they've been on all extremes when it comes down to it, but for me, I have.
Yeah.
So yes, I have dated potential to the full-fledged experience of dating potential.
Yeah.
Literally, when I say the full-fledged experience of dating potential, I've dated a man that I didn't, like I said, I didn't have to, my hands was up. I didn't touch a gas station. I don't know what to do with a car. Every time I got into it, it was full to the point to where when I got out of the relationship, I was running out of gas for a whole year because didn't have to
Didn't
do
realize
I
he was
didn't have I
doing
didn't realize
that.
that I didn't have to do that, right? So it's like, and then in between I've been with somebody that has a decent job but has financial, you get what I'm saying, like financial structure to where they can do this on these times and can't do this on others, and that's completely fine on all aspects. My thing is, at the end of the day, when it comes down to like I said, showing up emotionally, mentally, and in protection of my emotional and my mental and matching. I think the matching me where I'm at is in spirit, in emotion, and mentally. Those are my main those are my main three
It
things.
doesn't sound like you're hung up on finances, and that probably is why,
Yeah.
like, I don't think you can, formulate a sentiment of that question because I've seen it. I don't know if you have, but I see it all the
Mhm.
time where they're like, and I've heard women say this, right? I'm financially here, and if we're
And
not
if
growing
he
at the
not,
same rate, if he don't show up, and it's like, what makes you think that man want to be a business owner? Why you didn't think he liked his job? What makes you think he want to work up the ladder? What made you think he had aspirations to, be trying to make, $100,000? Not to say that nobody wants more money, but what makes you think that your man had the propensity or the mental capacity to have that leverage on him? Every man ain't cut like that. As much as we love to try to make it seem like black men should be, the reality of it is, if we really sit down and thought about it, I think, and this is why I came from that, because I can too say I took care of a man. I too can say, now I can say I had a millionaire. I've had millionaires interested. I have never been like trying to be involved with them, but I don't think that counts. You get what I'm saying? So I've never even lived with a man. So I'm very fresh in a lot of ways that other women aren't to certain dynamics. So maybe that is why I can see it differently as well. And I don't just prioritize money. I'm one video away. This YouTube video can make me a millionaire. Real life. And that would literally put a black man at a deficit to even being with me, because I do make more than the average woman. I do have residual income. I run a business on top of me making over, the average 50K. So I said that to say, a lot of times I don't think that we give black men room to grow like we anticipate room to grow. I don't think we show up for them in the aid of support how we give community to women. And that don't mean taking care of a man. And then
and
I'm saying that as a woman who did it. That don't mean showing up to say,
yeah.
you know what, I paid the bills this month. That means also pouring into him words of affirmation and allowing him the space to say, you are still my leader, even if you are broken at this moment. I'm giving you an opportunity to recoup.
Yeah.
See,
Real quick, Paris,
I
real quick.
would.
Guys,
I'm on that.
uh, let me chime in as a black man. And get and let you know the side of how black men kind of see the
Hey, bro,
situation.
where's your mic at?
Yeah, it's kind of low.
Is it
Yeah.
low? Okay, give me one
Yeah.
second. Let me do this. I have to do it because of the ice cream truck, but it's gone now.
One.
So I want to say this quick thing, and I'll let him go. I think we, but you can't date potential of character, but you can date potential of where they can go. Like your character, if you have a messed up character, you have character like you're that's not going to be fixed overnight, and that's not something you can like endure through. They need to go and fix themselves. That's just what it is. But as far as like job wise, as far as like location wise, all that external things can be changed. Internal things, like you literally have to fix it. But go ahead.
I think there's and you're gonna experience both all throughout. But as a black, I think there's in society, there's also once again through social media and through other things, this expectation that that we have to step up and be the breadwinner and step up and make a certain amount in order for women to like us and to step up. Like we see all these images of people balling, and we're like, man, and they're messages that tell us if we don't make us this certain amount, then honestly we shouldn't be dating. Honestly, we don't deserve love. Like that's not that's not. And so you have all these men who two options in which they just hustle and try to go get it and go get it and go get it. And see, it's driving them into an early grave, or you have ones that just fake it, and then later on you learn that they're not what they were about. And I've noticed that in reality, it's a little different. Now it can be different through like a dating app. For example, I can give you an example. I'm off the dating apps right now because what I've noticed is the the hive mind of social media has kind of infiltrated that particular space. Because every profile that I saw when I was on it, even as soon as a month ago, was all the profiles are looking the same. I need a man that takes care of me. I need a man that takes care of me. I need a man that takes, like I after a while, I was just rolling my eyes. Now I found someone who I liked. We went out the first time. She was a lawyer. First date, she liked everything about me. And I'm me personally. I'm the type of person where I will value you. I, will give you consideration, all that stuff. Especially if I like you. And second date was supposed to happen for about like a week later, but halfway through the week, I got some tickets to this show. So we go out. She seemed like she had a very, very good time. She even sent me a text like she's like, "Hey, you're my type." All this stuff. I can see you're very considerate. And the next day, she sends me one of those. Hey, I really like you, but and then you can imagine my head rolling into the back of my eyes. Like, all right, here we go again. And she just says, "Hey, I don't think we exactly align." And I'm just like, all right, cool. Have a good day. And then I had another thought. I'm curious. Why do you? Because I can't see myself as you see me. Why do you think we do not align? And she was a sweet girl, so she told me. And now what I need you to know is, at this point in my life, I'm not a broke artist in any way, but I still got time to go. I'm in my potential phase. I'm still growing. And because she's a lawyer, she's making maybe $200,000 plus a year. She goes, "You're everything that I wanted, but I want someone who is close to what I make or even more." And that particular statement, and I don't judge her for that, but it made me realize that there are real life implications to what people want through social media, and there are people in this world that do want someone who is potential instead of having potential, and for them that's okay. It's just about, once again, finding someone who meets you at your level, and there are plenty of people out here who will do that. It's not necessarily blaming one individual, but sometimes I am a little weary about kind of how we're moving towards that. But it is what it is. That's a man's point of view. And I think one thing I wanted to bring up earlier is there are a lot of women who say, "Hey, I want this person who I'm dating to be very communicative, to consider me, all those things." And yes, I do agree. Men do take on more of a load when it comes to that. But at what point does the woman have to reciprocate that in order for the man to continue doing that? If you're calling this person and expressing interest and letting her know that I'm here for you and all that stuff, you have to kind of consider to yourself, if I don't call or text this woman for 24 hours plus, would she reciprocate that? Would she call me? Would she text me? And that's not like quote unquote princess treatment, but knowing that, hey, this person cares about me as well.
It's sending a mixed message, and it's very conflated, because the idea is we are asking for stoic, financially well-off men who only care about our well-being. At the same time, you want him emotionally intelligent and aware. And those things actually don't mix, because that's not human nature. I think a lot of times we minimize men in the sense of what you guys' ability is, right? This is one of the reasons why I took money out the equation. I also grew up where due to my dad's disability, my mom actually did make more than him. So before he passed, my dad was disabled, legally disabled, but even in his disability, he always tried to work. So I never actually saw them do anything but be a team. And his check contributed just as much as hers did to the house. I still saw him buy her a car. He didn't ask for her money to do it. I still saw him put a big screen TV in the house. I still saw him go and get brand new washer and dryers or brand new refrigerators or brand new ovens and microwaves. And, I still saw them go and do bedroom sets together. And that had little to do with, sometimes it was her money, sometimes it was his. And so it's still a partnership. And one thing I'm starting to notice is this has nothing to do with what men are saying, more so what I'm seeing from women. It's not flattering showing up as a burden. I don't want to be showing up as
Yes.
a burden. You get what I'm saying? It's one thing to say, you know what, I make my money, I do this for myself, but how are you profiling yourself? We don't talk enough in dating how people profile themselves. When you're profiling yourself, if the first thing you told a man was I'm crazy, what about that was attractive? Or the first thing that you told a woman was I ain't got no job, I live with my mama. What about that was attractive when it doesn't come with any merit behind it?
So I'm gonna say this, right? I think people when they date, they're like reckless. Okay? Because for instance, there was a woman I was dating. She wanted a man to like support her lifestyle, right? But the way she was living was above her means and
Yeah.
reckless. Like, no, I don't want that in my. Why are we spending money on that? That's stupid. It's not that
Yeah.
I'm cheap. I'm recognizing this is not good to spend money on. This is a waste of money. We have a house. We have a fridge. Like, granted, yes, going out and eating is great, but every night, like,
Also, when
what?
you have a partner that's not ideal, I can do that. But having a partner that's not cohesive to the development of family, and that's why it's like, people can say they're intentional a lot. But the truth be told, the average family don't travel all the time. They're not taking a lot of vacations. The average family does have to use their PTO. Like we hear a lot. Take that PTO. The job not don't care. The job's not going to care. The job is going to be there. That's for people who are single. A person who has a child can't just up and take PTO because they may need that time for sick time. They may need to schedule or orchestrate their PTO around their child's, what did you call it? Those breaks, spring
Mm.
break, right? I can do that. I'm gonna take PTO probably next week and the week after. But parents have to have PTO for necessities. I can take leisure PTO when they gave you vacation and things like that. So when you talk about going into a relationship, a lot of people are they're isolating familiar dynamics, right? Like what you see now is people will date and they'll never talk about you being in their child's life until marriage. How the fuck we supposed to get there?
Right,
No, for real.
right. No, but that's why I
We
was just upfront.
But what does that like? If you want me to date you, you got a kid. What does that look like? When do we start doing family time? Because if I move in with you, now I got to think about school districts like you thinking about school districts.
So
Everything you think about as a parent, I have to think about as a parent, right? Because I'm taking this on. But the reality of it is, we talk so much about how people come into things, but you cannot be an individual. Everything is an individual in a relationship. That's not life.
facts. And my thing is with the person I was talking about, like when I was there, like I came to date you. Why are we at this child park with like kids running around? Like, what are we there for? Like,
It's
I
a
should
test.
not bullshit. Like, then I passed, and then you failed mine because because that shouldn't have been a thing. Like again, like
It's a test, though.
am I gonna say no? You shouldn't have your kid around and be that person. No, I'm just gonna be like, okay, cool, and I'm gonna just note it, and then I'm gonna see what happens. And I'm like, all right, this is what we did. This is how this was. This is how this went. Yeah, no, this ain't for me. This ain't for me.
And that's fair. It might not be your cup of tea. But back
It
to
was too
what
early.
Deji was
It was way
saying,
too early though.
if if you're waiting to see if the woman is going to text you and you're looking for reciprocated consideration, which is like I said, a reason why I cut somebody off, cut that person off because they do not consider you. If a woman has not, if you have not talked to a woman all day and she has not reached out to you not one time, she does not consider you. If she is not in retrospect to be like, hey, how you doing, just reaching out, are you okay, XYZ, this and third, she does not consider, she don't like you. That's what that is at the end of the day when it comes down to it. Or even the next day, let's say, because now let me say this. I have literally muted this podcast. Let me say this. I muted this podcast. This person texted me this morning at 11:30 this morning. I muted this podcast about 30 minutes ago to call them and apologize and say, I'm sorry that I have not gotten back to you because my day has been X, Y, and Z, and I was not expecting X, Y, Z to happen. And I should have been able to text you back, but I did get distracted. That is consideration. Because did I have to do that? Absolutely not. I did not have to do that whatsoever. But in hindsight, you get what I'm saying? It takes, you get what I'm saying? Like, first of all, respect in general. Like, if you respect the person, you would do that. If you like the person, you would do it. Not, you don't even have to do nothing about liking the person. I feel like at that point, it's just if you have respect for that person. If your character even shows up like that, it's a character thing too. Where does your character lie? If you're not willing to consider, you get what I'm saying? Like that, those are things. Like I'm just to think about it. I literally paused and muted the conversation to call somebody and apologize for not getting back with them, knowing that we were supposed to, knowing that they texted me at 11:30 because I had told them 12 when I ended up having other things to do. And I hadn't got back to them until now. But it's the simple fact that I still went out of my way, even though I didn't have to. I could have waited until this podcast was done, waited till tomorrow morning if I didn't, you get what I'm saying? Like, have the
But
character to even place, you get what I'm saying, them on
I
my
do.
mind to, so
But
it's like, if that
I
person
want
is
to say,
not, people do what they want to do, and if
well,
they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it.
I want to say too, I don't think that a lot of times, which I had to learn this, like my last relationship taught me this. I don't think you're wrong. I think what made me take a step back was I realized I was dealing with a man that everything he was doing is because other women let him get away with it. So it's not the fact that, in because I have a lot of male friends, right? A lot of older male friends, right? I deal with a lot of people in networking and, different walks of life. So their perspectives are different. Sometimes I'm thinking he's thinking in the way that I think he should be thinking, and he ain't thinking that because his operation ain't never been that. So when Smooth is like, this was too early, it made me think, well, I don't really think it's too early of a time to meet a child. I think that it was too much for you.
No, no, no.
Hold on, wait a minute. Let me put it into perspective. If a woman is really trying to say, hey, this is what I come with, and this is what I'm setting the tonality for, me personally, I don't think it's a too early stipulation. I think that sometimes we are meeting the middle of the road with people that their situation is too much for us. How their operation is too much for us. Because even then, with what Celine was saying, it made me reflect back to my circumstance, and I'm just thinking to myself, I was really sitting here tolerating this, and this shit was overbearing for me.
So
Everything that he has been acquainted with other women, it was just a lot for me, which is why we always clashed about my entitlement. Me thinking he should be a different man or show up a different way.
no, so for instance, right, there was another woman, she had kids. I showed up for that child just fine because I was dating her mother. I got to know her mother, and then the child then came in. I don't know the mother that well. That was my problem. I'm trying to know you well enough.
I hear what you're
Right,
saying,
right,
and I'm
right.
saying that I don't
But
think that there's such thing as too early. I think it was too much
for
for you.
But my
no,
thing
no,
is, I think
that
too
is
early and too much are two things that are, in hindsight, I feel like it's a to each its own
Yeah,
type of
that's what I'm
situation.
getting.
It's
It
not
was
more,
too
it's
each his
not
own.
the, it's not too
okay.
much for him, but it's more so a thing where's the conversation to where we can compromise and meet in the middle? Where's the conversation that, you know what, my standpoint is on this, and I know where your standpoint is on this, and we can agree or disagree on what that
Right.
looks like. My
So
Because
thing
you have
is
some men, they'll hide their kids and they'll say, "You never finna meet my kid. You're not meeting my kid, so why do you care?" Versus you have some women, they're like, "I come with this. Because I come with this, I'm not finna sit here and make you feel like this
right.
child is my priority over you."
Here's the problem though, right? Plans were already made that were different. The whole plan deviated because you wanted to see your child, not had to. Child was just fine where they were at with the other parent. You
Oh, I can understand.
voluntarily brought them in, and I'm like, fam, what's going on?
so
Like,
it was like a force.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
she
was of
forced
There
course
it.
it's
wasn't a
again
conversation.
like
So
Yeah, yeah.
right.
there's
So
a
it was
situation.
that morning. I'm getting asked, yo, so I feel like I want to see my kid. Can we go back by the house? I'm gonna have the dad bring the child over. Am I supposed to say no, your child can't come home? That's not even my place to say it. I'm in a lose-lose situation.
That's true. Now I
You
get
know,
what
so
you're
I mean, but
saying.
now you're
I'm
not in
just
a
coming
lose-lose
from an
situation
objective
because my thing is
standpoint.
she made her choice. She made her choice.
no,
And then
I'm saying I'm in a lose-lose because there's nothing I can say to
If
change
he
that
said
situation.
no, he would have been the bad guy. Even with him saying yes, it compromised and it
and call me
overrided
Joker with a
what.
big old smile. If you see me as a bad guy because you didn't have a conversation with me as an adult, at the end of the day, my thing is at the end of the day, hold that woman accountable. Regardless of whatever, if she made a decision, she didn't consult nobody, she didn't communicate, she communicated by telling him and not asking
You're not
in a
wrong.
sense.
It's just it's
So
a
it's
messy
like
situation,
that,
especially with people who don't
yeah.
have kids. Like I think it's easier, and this is why I say a lot of times
You
people
can't
want
force
to.
nobody to meet your kid.
That's
And I have a
true,
child.
but here's the thing: you're way more mature than a lot of these fucking people we're running into. A
And
lot of
don't
people
and
want to
don't
discount you as a non-parent at the expense of them being a parent. You may not, right? But I get where he's coming from. If he would have told her, "No, I ain't cool with that," now he's the bad guy because you're supposed to be complicit. You're supposed to be saying like, "You cool with me having a kid? What's
So
the
but
problem
no,
there?"
there's a way
wait,
that it could
wait,
be
to give y'all
said
full
though.
context, right? I'm out of state. The only place that I'm supposed to be that I'm going to is your place. Besides where we were at, the other city we were in. Now we're back in the other city, and I'm at your place. That's where I'm supposed to be staying at. At that point, I'm at a lose.
It
When I
puts you
say
at an
lose,
impasse.
I would literally lose because I'm like, if I say this, I piss this person off. Like, shoot, dang, I got to figure
Now
out
she don't
what I'm
want you
gonna do
staying
the
at her
next few
house
days.
no more.
Yeah. Like what I'm finna do, how I'm supposed
And
to
she
get
was
around.
wrong. Don't get me wrong. I completely agree. She was wrong. She ambushed you. But overall, the dating dynamics of it is like that's no different than me telling a man, "I know you only got one weekend coming home this weekend, and I know you want to spend it with your child, but I want to see you too." His kid needs him more than me. But if I'm dating him, I also want to see his ass.
But my thing is that's the thing that's exactly how you communicate it. Hey, I know you only have one weekend. If there is a way that you can fit me in X, Y, and Z, let me know. There's a way to communicate those things. Hey, um, I understand that you're trying to get your child. Honestly, I'm not comfortable with that just yet. This, that, and the third, da 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 da, whatever, whatever. So my thing is, it's also about how you say it. Not, nah, I ain't cool with that shit. You get what I'm saying? Like it's about how you, it's about tone and how you say things to people, regardless if they're mature enough or not. And even if they're not mature enough, then that person is not for you to understand that you have boundaries. And if they're not willing to compromise or meet you where you are at your boundaries, then by all means, pitch posh, let it go. My thing is like a lot of again, yes, there is a lack of maturity, but there's also, if you are mature enough, you would know how to communicate with somebody to let them know. Like when I had dropped that man, did I be like, oh, you're not considerate and this and third and that? I said no, our puzzle pieces just don't match, and I just feel like that you operate in this manner and I operate in this manner, and it just doesn't align, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. I appreciate what you did and did. You get what I'm saying? I appreciate the care that you did show me, but unfortunately, that does not align with how I like for somebody to show up for me. So my thing is, it's about how you say something versus, you get what I'm saying? Now, um, in a sense, it's like you can't, again, double-edged sword, whatever. Like I feel like there is a space where people with kids will use. I literally had somebody that I dropped last year hit me back up this year and give me a Valentine's Day gift saying that his children wanted to get it for me, but he's using his children as a caveat to try to get back to me. Literally asked me to hang out with them and was going to pay me, and I will screenshot it and send it to you guys, that he wanted to pay me to hang out with his kids. So it, when it comes down to it, people will use their kids as a, people will pawn their kids. They will use that as an emotional X, Y, and Z, or they'll use it as a, and this is somebody with a child, they will use it as a reason why you should conform to X, Y, and Z. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but there's also ways to, you get what I'm saying, respectfully decline, or you get what I'm saying, like, not, you don't have to, you didn't have to go to that park with that kid if you didn't want to.
Yeah, free
That was a
will is
choice that
always
you,
there.
that was a choice that you had made to go
He
and show
did.
up, because you also at the end of the day wanted to see, because that's what you wanted to do at the at that standpoint. Now, if you had the option to tell her no, then you should have told her no when you had the opportunity, instead of sitting in something uncomfortable because you decided not to speak up in that point. At that point, she was wrong for bringing it up in the first place, knowing what the situation was. But as a man, I feel like there's also a space where you could have navigated the no, the uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable with this right now, this that and third, how you feel, because but I also feel like men don't feel like that they can put their emotions on the forefront without it being, without them turning around and being attacked. And
I
that's
don't
a no,
think
that's
it's
a whole nother
wrong.
conversation.
And you,
But
I completely agree with everything you just said. I don't
yeah.
think the issue of that situation is the what I'm taking from it. My perception of that is when we're mitigating relationship dynamics, the communication aspect isn't what I have the issue with, because everybody know I'm gonna say what the fuck I want to say, right? Especially if I'm gonna give you my body, nigga, I don't give a fuck. Like you're gonna, hey baby, you're gonna hear me, and if that means that we don't talk anymore, good riddance. Thank you for the experience. It's more so of just being able to say, is the juice worth the squeeze? You are always trying to find balance when you are getting to know people, trying to understand them. Because sometimes my first reaction, especially now because I'm in a position where I'm overseeing a team of people with different emotions, different backgrounds, different perceptions, and tonality and things like that, I'm always quick to say, am I tripping? Right? Even if I'm not tripping, first thing that I put myself to say is, am I tripping? So what that looks like is a lot of times things are happening that impedes on my comfort or my boundary, even if I have autonomy.
And I can't sit up here and lie and act like that in hindsight that did. Now, in hindsight, with the consideration piece, in hindsight, I did give myself time and space to think about, hey, like, did I make that decision too fast because of time and adjustment, right? And is there a space where this could be, where I've been stuck on my boundaries so hard and so tough because of X, Y, and Z, that I didn't give opportunity or room for that to even curate or grow. And I ain't gonna lie, I tried to double back. It didn't work. It's all cool. But at the end of the day, I am one to, you get what I'm saying, like, ask that question, am I tripping? And one
So,
thing for sure, two things for certain, I will never double back in my life ever again.
so, when I think about that situation, I'm thinking about, like, just the fact of the matter is, I am in another state, in a city that ain't mine, and there was a plan and organization that was set up 2 months prior. The day has finally come, and then now I'm hit out of nowhere with something extra, and I don't necessarily know how you're going to respond if I am confrontational. And because I don't know you well enough, I don't know you well enough to then give that feedback like that. I don't know how you're going to receive it, and I'm not trying to have this big old argument or anything. I just want to get through this time period, evaluate it, and then just end it. If this was enough for me that you would even consider bringing this up, then cool. I can just dead it just completely. Like my mindset was never. It wasn't necessarily. It could have been anything else. It could have not been the child. It could have been bringing up, oh, I gotta go run X errands, and I'm like, fam, why are we running 20 errands when I'm here to see you? You should have got that out the way. Yeah, you knew I was coming. That's my whole piece is.
And that's
If we planned and we had a structure and you broke it, it's on you to fix it. And if you don't accommodate and fix that, then hey, that's all good. We don't have to see each other no more.
Well, on that note, guys, I have to go.
Oh no, we're finna wrap. This is finna be it.
Okay.
So
I'm
you ain't
like,
gotta
I
do
have
all
to
that.
go.
You ain't gotta do all that. So I want to give everybody an opportunity to, you know what I'm saying, shout yourself out one more time for the one time, and then we're gonna get up out of here.
Paradise Paris. You can find me on Twitter at _Paradise Paris 1, YouTube at _Paradise Paris, or just Landon in Paris, TikTok at _Paradise Paris, Facebook and Instagram is going to be Paradise Paris. You can contact me for networking or any events, including promo, at contact.paradiseparis@gmail.com.
Fantastic.
It's just Celine with periods in between. I'm like the hippie of the group. I go with the wind. So if you need your hair done, the guys got them divine hands for you. Like they said, I do poetry. I sing a little bit. But writing right now is my thing.
Poetry.
It might be sewing next week. Who knows? You never know what you get. This is your favorite box of chocolate, and I'm about to get out of here. I might need to add it to my page.
Nah, for real, that's a good tagline. This is your favorite box. That is fire. You got it.
No, I really appreciate all of y'all. Thank you for inviting me. I enjoy listening and being part of the conversation. The only thing you can find me on is Instagram. I might be joking. I'm also on Facebook, but you don't want to find me on there. Yeah, my stuff. You can view some of my stuff and what I'm working on there. I'm always coming to a screen near you with something.
All right. So I need y'all to like, comment, subscribe. When you hit the subscribe button, subscribe to all the channels that are linked. We up out of here. Peace.